Testing 1, 2. Hey, all right, there we go. I'm gonna gavel again. There we go. I call the February 22nd, 2023 Bremerton City Council study session to order. Study session is open to the public to attend or view remotely, but there will be no opportunities for input. The content of these items is subject to change and no action is anticipated tonight. Any of the items approved for action by council tonight will be placed on the March 1st, 2023 City Council meeting agenda. And a recording of this study session will also be available online within a few days following the meeting. All right, first up, item A1, we have update on mayor's salary survey pursuant to section 2.03.010 of the Bremerton Municipal Code. And Human Resources Manager Charlotte Belmore is here to present item 1. Welcome. I'll I think hit the button. Right, there we go.
How's that? Better?
Perfect.
All right, so you can go to the next. So this slide is just showing you BMC 2.50 that says that beginning this year that we would do the salary survey on the mayor, and that we would do it every 4 years. And for this, if you decide to make a change, it would be effective the first of next year. So we looked at 21 cities and using the salary of only strong mayors of all 21 cities, the mayor's salary is 34.9% below the average and 33.83% below the median. Using only cities with a population of up to 100% above and 50% below the cities, the mayor's salary is 29.3% below the average and 26.7% below the median. The next thing I looked at was how other cities set their mayor's salaries. And 40% of them use an independent or salary commission. They call them both. 15% give them an annual cost of living, and 35% give them the same increase as the non-represented employees. And then we looked at which cities, how many of the cities had full service cities like we are. And the 21 surveyed, 65% are not full service and 35% are. Looking at cities with the population 100% up and 50% down, 88.89 are not full service and 11.11 are full service. And this is the salaries of all 21 cities that we used. And it's the same thing I said earlier, 34.9% below the average and 33.83% below the median. And this is 100% up and 50% below the city's population, showing the cities used, and the mayor's salary is 29.3% below the average and 26.7% below the median. This is a history of the pay increases that the mayor has received since 2008. And you can see since the mayor's been in office, he's received one pay increase back in 2020, and it was a 3.64% increase. It also shows that in 2014, there was a 10.15% decrease. And look at today versus 2008, the mayor actually made more back in 2008 than he did now. If we had done what some of the cities do and gave the mayor the same increases that management gets, his salary would have been $13,708 today, or I think it's $9,800 right now. That's what I have. Does anyone have questions?
This is just information only for right now, and then down the road, it will come back to us to actually deliberate on, correct?
Yeah, it's up to council if they want to give them a change. Then for the BMC right now, it would take effect next year. So we would do a salary, or you guys would approve it in the budget. If you wanted to do, because that is quite a difference, if you want to do something sooner, then we would have to change the BMC So that's why I kind of looked at all the ways to put that salary for you.
Okay, so we might have a discussion here to see if we want to move this forward for a future study session as well. Okay, just one context. With that said, we'll go to Eric first.
Thank you. So the history of this, the salary cut, I was there during that. It was brought up by the District 6 council member. Yeah, we looked at, see if I recall correctly, looked at the salaries, and I don't recall the entire context of why we reduced it. But and I believe we looked at salary surveys. The ordinance, when I was council president, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago, I took it upon myself to not look at the current mayor, which was Mayor Wheeler at the time, the position. I said there was nothing in place to look at the mayor's salary. So I convened the council, we looked at numbers. We didn't use your methodology that you use. I would ask for the next go around, if we proceed further, we use the same analysis we did last time.
Yeah.
Look it up in the record, I'm sure you'll find it. The cities for our comps, because that's not how they looked at the salaries for the last time, and it's not how they looked at the city council salaries, the salary commission.
That is how we look at city council. We use the same cities. We
You
follow,
use the city of Seattle
yes,
and you averaged it.
yes.
Okay, so I'd like to see that.
Well, no, we wouldn't use the city of Seattle because they have full-time council members. So the
Yes.
other cities we did use.
So I'm asking that we use the same methodology we used last time. That was the intent of the ordinances, to take a look at that. Subsequent years, pass the ordinances, we look at it 4 or 5 years from now. So I'd like to look at that analysis and not the one that was just presented. I am open to it. It's about the position, and it's not about the mayor's performance. It is clearly about the position. The voters decide on the mayor's performance. That's the framework, that was the intent of the ordinance, and to take the politics out of it. Without that ordinance in place, it could be years and years and years before the mayor's salary is looked at again. Not reduce the salary. So what happened there, however many years ago, it was reduced for the next mayor term. You cannot reduce a mayor's salary while they're in office. You can increase, but you cannot reduce.
Thank you, Quinn.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. My only question is, it said 40% was based on independent commissions setting the salary. What was the other 60%? How did the other 60% figure it out?
35% is, they get the same increases as the management, the non-represented employees. And the other annual cost of living.
Oh, I see. So that 15% was, it's set by ordinance of the council, and then there's a COLA
Mhm.
in it already. Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, after looking at some other positions within the city, I'm definitely interested in making sure that the executive is compensated similar to his direct reports and other branches of government.
So seeing no other hands, Lana.
Thanks, Jeff. Good evening, Charlotte. So how were these 21 cities chosen?
They didn't see that the salary survey every year, so it was easy to pull out and tell which cities were strong mayors versus
Weak mayors?
Yeah.
Or
yeah. So I just
manager?
yeah, I pulled everyone they had in there.
So usually, like, for example, when I'm truly not complaining, let me make this really loud, not complaining. But when city council salaries were considered, Bainbridge was thrown out as an outlier which I can completely understand. So I'm curious why Seattle, or was Bainbridge included on this one as well?
No,
But was Seattle not considered an outlier?
on the smaller survey, yeah, we pulled them out because of population, but these are all strong mayors.
Yes.
And their councils are different, so that's why they weren't used on the city council salaries. They're actually full-time.
I understand that. In other words, it's a very normal thing to do in statistics. You have a group of numbers and one is quite out of whack. Like if, for example, of the people in this room, someone felt that the mayor should simply serve for the love of it, that would be an outlier. So Bainbridge was considered a similarly incredible outlier for council salaries. So I'm wondering why Seattle was not considered such an outlier for mayoral salaries.
That was the commission, the citizen commission that proposed Bainbridge out. So I don't recall the
Okay,
exact reasoning.
fair enough.
But that's also why I did it two different ways with 100% up and 50% down in population.
Okay.
So to show that it's really not. I mean, it's 5% difference in the average. And on one, with just the 50% or 100% up, 50% down, he's 29.3% below. And using all 34%.
Well, I would like to look at this data, but and not having seen the data that Eric is referring to, I do like comparing apples to apples. And if there was a methodology that was used in 2014, is that correct? Then I'd like to look at using that data again. If, of course, one of those cities has become, completely different in nature in the intervening 6 years, which is a thing that could happen. That would be one thing, but it would be easier for all of us, I think, to look at that data.
I can pull that.
Thank you.
Perfect. Let me just make sure, no, just to make sure Jennifer doesn't hand up. So yes, I think I'm personally absolutely in favor of revisiting this. I strongly believe we should have competitive salaries for all of our city staff and positions, including electeds. So if I got it right, Bainbridge has full-time council members and no strong mayor. So we basically have no comparison to them on either level, but Seattle has a strong full-time mayor, just like Bremerton. But they also have full-time council. So that's why for council salaries, we don't compare to Seattle, but for the strong mayor system, at least on that level of having a strong full-time mayor. Yeah. Obviously a lot of other differences between Bremerton and Seattle, but on that system alone. Okay. So I think for council, am I seeing enough head nods that we want to revisit this and see if we can arrive at a number? Being at least 3, 4 head nods. But it sounds like the specific ask is to calculate a proposed number with and without Seattle included, just so we can see what that difference is. And then to Eric's point, seeing what cities were used, and Eric, I'll make this straight. What cities were used in the council determination survey, or what was used when a couple of years ago for the mayor determination?
When we did the mayor's calculation in whatever it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
We followed the same methodology. I want to say there's like 10 cities selected and only 4 had strong mayor government, something.
It should be easy.
But I believe that's the methodology we use because there are similar sized cities. And so you don't have outliers like Seattle. The council was comfortable with that because that was a similar approach that we use for our negotiations with the Teamsters, police and fire, as far as picking our comps. And we feel comfortable doing that with the mayor, even though that reduced the amount because 6 out of the 10 were at city manager form of government, but that was the best data that we went with. This other stuff is new to me. I'd have to actually, it wasn't in our packet, so I'd have to look at that. I'm not saying that's not a fair process, but it completely caught me out guard because I was used to the way we did it.
Okay, perfect. It sounds like it'd be easy to, easy, but do
Yeah,
the calculation and, okay, so if we have those kind of 3 sets of numbers next time, we can take a look and then discuss amongst ourselves which method we like or don't like and see how far apart the numbers are. Okay. And sorry, on in the back, Eric.
Just thank you, Jeff, for like reminding me to master basic courtesy. I think that the mayor deserves to get a decent salary and a proper raise. So in case that wasn't clear.
So the other thing in revisiting an issue we had not too long ago when we talked about deferred comp and all that stuff. So without getting too much in the weeds, I believe our mayor has a car allowance. You could look at particularly those 4 cities that I mentioned. So I'm not asking to look at all 29 or whatever on your analysis. But if you look at the other one to see if they have any deferred comp or car allowance or anything like that, it shouldn't be too heavy a lift, just to be fair.
Just say 4 cities. Just the ones. we did
Whatever's on
last
that we
time.
did last time. I know it's a small sample. And I think Mount Vernon, which you had on there, is also on that one as well.
Mhm.
I want to say it's Mount Vernon, Olympia, City of Longview, and I can't think of the other one, something like that.
Mount Lake Terrace. are the
I think it's
cities.
Mount Lake Terrace too as well.
Nope, that seems fair. We were just talking about total compensation for other elected officials the other week, so that makes sense to me. All right, well, thank you so much, Ms. Nelson, for doing all the hard work, and whenever you're ready, come back to another study session and we'll dig into it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Ms. Belmore, I'm used to the old name. All right, next up, item A2. We have Police Chief Tom Wolfe and Fire Chief Pat McGanny to present discussion on a funding source for public safety staffing. This is a continuation from what originated at our joint planning session. Chiefs, take it away.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Yeah, we would just like to continue the conversation from this council retreat on a staffing increase for police and fire, understanding that we were going through budget, that staff is expensive. And we have to find a way to fund it. So working probably the last year trying to figure out a funding source. I think this mic, we're still good on this. Okay. A way to fund it either via a bond or a property tax increase. So our proposal is a property and tax increase of 40 cents per thousand, which for a $300,000 house would be about $120 a year, or $10 a month. What that would give us is 17 new FTEs between police and fire, 9 for fire, 8 for police. And the one position, additional position for fire is trying to get back our OA2 office assistant, because right now the fire department is operating with 1 office assistant. And she is technically the office assistant for the fire chief, but she is spread very thin, handling all the, help with all the other divisions between our training office, EMS, operations, and the fire marshal's office. So for the fire department, and I'll let Chief Wolfe talk to his board, what it would mean for us. And it's a 2-year hiring period for both fire and police. So for the first year, we would hire 5 FTEs, and then the next year we would hire 4. So 2024, we'd hire 5, 25, we'd hire 4. In the first year, we would hire 3 paramedics. It's a company officer, and then the OA2 for us, and then 2 firefighters, 2 paramedics in the following year. What this will allow us to do is to get Medic 4 up and running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it'll up our minimum staffing by 2. It'll take us from 14 personnel on duty every day to 16. Gives us an additional response unit. With Medic 4 is doing right now, of course, we're only running it Monday through Thursday from 8 to 6. But with our increased transport times, increased out of service times at the hospital, which has improved some, but we're still there, depletes our response capabilities to be able to handle emergencies. And then we have to rely on mutual aid, which we'll talk about that next after this. So that's kind of the fire side of things. I'll let Chief Wolfe talk about that.
Yeah,
Police side.
so council, as we've been talking.
Just your microphone, sorry. online. Perfect.
How's that? As we started the conversation, as we look at staffing numbers and we look at our comp plan from 10 years ago, our plan right now would have us right about 81 officers and we're scheduled for 64. So we've fallen behind on that. In 10 years, we're estimating to be at 64,000 or more population. We're growing out toward Anderson Hill, which creates a whole nother district. We control 5 districts the way we split up now. That creates a 6th district, which would be 3 shifts, 6 officers to that. Just trying to keep up with growth and everything. We have to find a way, I think, to add when our services are going to dwindle. What we would do right now, of course, we're fluid with what the needs are immediately, but we're looking at adding 2 to traffic. That's probably one of our biggest complaints. I get it from most of the district reps and the citizens continuously, and I think the mayor's office hears quite a bit of it also. Our ability to, with the law changes and stuff, we're still able to go get criminals, but we have to play the long game. So I need to add some detectives in to go after property crime and things that are affecting our citizens. We would bolster our detective vision, and then our community policing in our debt team. We continue to grow that and have a debt presence in all areas of the city as much as possible. It's kind of a 10,000-foot view.
So what we're looking for is council to tell us to move forward with the ballot measure, which is going to take a while to put together. If council supports this between finance and legal and chief and myself, but we have to have everything for the county by May 12th. August ballot. I believe there's some benefits to us running on the August ballot. South Kitsap Fire and Rescue is going to be on the ballot for their levy, which we can kind of message public safety together out in the community. I believe there's maybe some school district stuff coming in November. Not for us, but the south end, which sometimes brings some negative issues forward. So, but we're just really looking to see if council's in support of this.
Okay, perfect. We'll do some Q&A and then look for head nods and see Denise's hand first.
I'm a visual person and I'm like put it in front of me in black and white kind of person. Use colors, that's effective. But I guess with the, I've heard everything and I am so fully supportive of getting you to the point where you feel capable of handling what you have now, which is, I think, what we're trying to do here. It's like bring it up to what the standard that we should be at. That's the goal of this.
Correct. It's trying to get us to where we should be to be able to handle the emergency response within the city for police and fire. I mean, if you look at the projections 10 years out, and we don't do anything, we're really going to find a ball. So this is to get us to where we really should be to be able to handle what we have now.
And that is probably, I'm sure, going to be part of the messaging that ultimately is used once you work with whoever the powers that be politically to write it up and all that. My question procedurally, I guess, is this normal to kind of get the blessing of a council without anything really in writing about what it may be? We've got verbal testimony. It doesn't seem like it's
Can I go to maybe attorney analysis or question spot? And God, I'm gonna have to get used to that. To walk through, what's the exact legal process to get this submitted by the city on the ballot?
So I think, my understanding was for tonight, this is another informational session for you all to provide input and ask questions, and presumably there would be much, much more that goes on once we get the go-ahead, that this is the direction that the council wants to go. And then there's gonna be approval of language that the council does by ordinance. I'll be honest, I don't have it right now off the top of my head. Certainly we'll get you this. This is my understanding. This was a continuation of an earlier discussion so that the chiefs could get the idea, if we even wanted them to go down the road for developing, I think what you are expecting to see.
Yes, so we're trying to give you kind of a 30,000 foot view of, this is what the cost will be to move forward with something like this, and then be able to put the presentation together. But I mean, it's gonna take a lot of staff time to be able to put all this together and get it ready, and then come back to a formal study session for your approval. This is 30,000 foot just to continue the discussion. If council
I
wants us to
understand. I got it.
go down that road, then we'll get all the powers to be, we'll put everything together, the ordinance, but if there's not the interest, then. I'll staff time to
Will
put
we
it
be
together.
saying that we're planning to, or what are we, what does this say?
If I could jump in, it sounds like we're looking to give a head nod for them to do the work, not that we're committing one way or another to the vote,
Okay.
but certainly if all 7 of us were like, absolutely not, then yeah, no point in going off and doing the work. But if the majority of council is at least receptive to it, sounds like they can do the work and bring it back to us and keep discussing.
Thank you.
So thank you. Excellent question. Jennifer, then Quinn, then Anna.
Hello, I cannot see any of you and I miss seeing your faces. So I wasn't, and some of it I wasn't able to hear very well, but I know we had this discussion earlier and this did come through public safety. We gave the head nod to do the work. And respectfully, Denise is chair now, but she was not able to make that meeting, but
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. I just want to clarify. You might need to speak directly into the mic, just in case, so I can hear good. But can you, Chief McGanny, can you give me the rundown one more time? You've done it twice for me now, and I apologize, but can you give me the rundown now again about your plan for the FTEs?
So it would be a total of 9 FTEs, 5 paramedics, 3 firefighters, and office assistant over a
Great.
year.
And Chief Wolf, your plan 2 for traffic. And then, so we're talking about 8 on your side, 8 FTEs. And these are full-time FTEs, is that what's being proposed?
Yes.
Okay, and so 2 for traffic, and then what were the rest?
Currently, we're looking at 4 detectives and 2 community resource officers or 2 debt officers.
Okay. And this is, I don't know that we've ever done this before. Have we in Bremerton bundled for emergency services, property tax increase? Have we ever done this in Bremerton before?
Not for staffing, we've run public safety bonds for buildings, the fire station and police station, and actually courts were in the 2004 public safety bond, but not for staffing.
And I think I just want to harken back to our budget discussions where we were really trying to check in with you about your needs. And you mentioned the day car as something you'd like to have 24/7. And we really wanted to kind of see if we could support through the budget, increase staffing, and that was not something that you were interested in at the time. I don't believe. Well, I think it was more like, we'll never turn down extra funding, but we need to work together within the departments to create a balanced budget. But I think my concern is if this fails or that, or if we receive some blowback from the community, that I feel like, and I don't want to speak for everybody on council, but I just want to harken back to that budget session where we really wanted to support or find out if you needed support financially for FTEs for fire and emergency services, specifically for your department. But we did in public safety, once again, give the head nod for the work to be done. And we do need staffing, especially for our firefighters, EMTs, paramedics. That's a huge need. And so I think those are just the comments that I wanted to make respectfully, and I appreciate all of you.
Thank you, and thanks for the feedback on the microphones, especially as we work on that. And if anyone's watching online, the camera is currently down, but IT is working on getting that back up. So just so folks are aware, but hopefully audio is working well. Let's go next to Quinn.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Thanks for being here. The only questions I have is, like Denise, I'm visual, so I'm gonna try and remember what you said, but I think it's important to reiterate the numbers. 64,000, did you say that that's the projection of the population of Bremerton, and what is the time frame for that? That number stuck out to me, sorry.
I believe that is 10 years.
The comp plans, looking at the comp plans, and the numbers, and sorry, that I looked at the police department selfishly. I didn't look at where we were at 2015 and the numbers that were projected. The city, we were planning on 1.8 per thousand officers, and we're at currently 1.4 is what we're operating off of. And that's kind of where we've landed. So even at 1.4 at 64K, we'd still need 80 officers.
And that 1.4, that you're reading my mind, that was gonna be my next question. The 1.4, kind of the per capita number, how does that compare to other cities within the Puget Sound region or
Well,
Washington?
Washington is the least staffed law enforcement in all 50 states. We have the fewest officers per capita. The national average is 2.4 per thousand. York is 4 per thousand. So it's big numbers. As far as how we stack up to everyone else, I think we're all down a lot right now.
And then I think what is also helpful for the public who might be watching right now to understand is some numbers that came through public safety. If I was reading those numbers correctly, it looks like crime across the board has been pretty much been going up in Bremerton compared to last year's numbers. Is that correct?
Yeah. Another number that to give the council was in 2007, we were staffed at 66 officers for the police department, and that was at a population of around 35,000. So now our population is, I want to say it's right around 45,000, and we're staffed at 64 officers. So 42, somewhere in there. So we're not keeping it.
So for me, at least, I'm seeing three things that are needed to keep up with population growth, keep up with crime growth, I guess, for a way to quantify that number. But then also to make sure that we're at least staffing in a way that's comparable to other cities. So I think this makes sense, and obviously it'll be for the voters to decide, but I'm more than happy to see the numbers and have staff put the work in.
Thank you, Anna.
Okay, so for all y'all, if you can hear your voice coming out of these speakers, the people outside this room can hear you.
Good feedback, pun intended.
I missed it, I'm sorry.
It's a good feedback, pun intended.
Okay, Chief Wolfe, Chief McGanny, what a pleasure to have you here. You have all of these facts and figures, and you're comparing staffing levels now to the staffing level in previous comp plans. You're using percentages, you're looking at the amount of growth. And I was wondering, it would have been, if you had given us all of that, then we could have read it and digested it. And at this point, we could be saying, you go write that, go write that language, go get that ballot. But as it is, I'm completely with Denise and also with like the people I represent, because if there's something that's in the packet, I can't say that every single person in my district is going, oh gosh, how can I get through the night without reading these facts and figures? But it's got to be there. It's our duty to have it. So if you could put those figures on paper and send them to us I believe it's the consensus of this council that,
Yeah, I think this is just a pre-informational briefing, which
Yeah.
appreciated, but
but
if
it,
there's any questions on what's been presented,
yeah.
you know, yeah.
My thing is, it's like, I'm listening to these figures and they sound good and I am not retaining them. So I would like to retain them. So if they were written down, I could do that. So you've given us an information briefing that I at least haven't really retained, and I'd like to. Okay, and just to respond to something that was said earlier, the figure we kept hearing at AWC conference was crime in Washington was up 47% on average. So, yeah, thank you.
Eric.
Okay, so I'll start off with 65,000 people in Bremerton forecasted by when?
That was, through the comp plan for 20.
I'm sorry, Chief, a little closer to the mic because I'm realizing, yeah, I think you gotta get pretty close to those things.
Yeah,
20
just- yeah.
2044.
Yeah, as we were, no, it wasn't. It was within the next 10.
So
It came out from-
2034.
Yeah, 2034.
The reason why I bring that up is so,
2044, thank you.
okay, because if it's 2034, so first of all, these projections, there's no doubt in my mind will increase. I don't know by that amount number because in 2000, we hovered around, I want to say 40,000 people. And we've been largely flat. We've had an increase with all this building and all this stuff. And now we have a housing shortage. We have cost of capital going up and we have builders not building at the rate that we built up till now. It's slowing down. But I can't forecast 20 years in the future. No one can. But I will tell you that my experience is that the projections are always pretty high and our actual numbers are much lower, at least in the last 20 years they have been. I do not discount the need that we're going to need more police officers and firefighters. So just that little caveat, keep in mind, don't automatically assume we're going to have 65,000 people here in 2044. Whatever, I'm not sure I see it. The other thing is, before I'm okay with this moving forward, I would need an internal analysis from our finance department showing our forecasted revenues and why we can't take care of this internally, why we cannot fund this with our general fund money. Why do we have to go to the taxpayers for additional support? Now, I do understand that around 2001, 2002, we had a noted initiative writer that passed an initiative that capped our property tax increases to 101% plus new construction of the previous year. In other words, only a 1% increase. That initiative, if I recall correctly, was voided by the courts, but then Governor Gregoire turned around and got it passed through the House and Senate. And that's what we've been living on all these years, basically a 1% increase in property tax. And of course, we all know in the city of Bremerton, our primary revenues are property tax, B&O tax, which the council rightly has reduced or basically flattened because of all the exemptions we're giving. And sales tax. And I'm going to be forgetting another one, sales tax, property tax, B&O tax, and utility taxes. So we have a four-legged chair. Many municipalities just have a three-legged stool. But even then, one of those legs is very shortened compared to the growth of the other two because of the property tax being limited to 1%. I will tell you, my experience was previously on the council. I believe we were authorized by law to increase it 6% a year. And guess what we did every year? 6%. So, and that's the reason, in my opinion, why the initiative writer did what he did and why Governor Gregoire did what she did through the legislature. So there should have been a happy medium, not maybe a 6% or a 3%. Nevertheless, because of that, I could see going to the voters saying, look, we have this law and it's handcuffing us. Now, if you recall in our emails, we're getting literature from the AWC talking about property tax relief. I would like to see what that looks like. And that's going to go through the committees within the next week or two, whether it's going to move on as, you know, if it's going to survive. So I'd like to see what that language is. I assume you gentlemen are aware of that. That may give the city relief and being allowed to do this councilmatic, if you will, and then again, take care of it internally without going to the vote of the people, which is no slam dunk, right? Right. So, my preference is do the analysis to see if we can take care of this in-house, because that would be the preferable alternative, not ask the taxpayers for more money. But if we can't, and we don't get property tax relief through the legislature, then I'm open to asking the people. But of course, you're gonna have to. This is Shark Tank to 40,000 residents. You need to prove why we need to do this. And I don't want to deny you the opportunity. So I'd be okay with that, provided we do these other two steps first.
I agree. I think it's gonna be it will be a heavy lift to get through. It'll have to definitely be a grassroots campaign to get it done, but when we were proposing this, the initial layout for this request is $3.2 million. And that not ongoing, because some of it's got equipment and training and stuff like that, but when we're talking about 17 FTEs long-term, it was the same reason that I've kind of pushed back a little bit about council funding FTEs during budget session, not knowing what the future of the city looks, and if we're heading into a recession. I want FTEs. Both police and fire need FTEs. There's no doubt about it, but being fiscally responsible is a whole nother thing. And, you know, I mean, basically to add 3 FTEs is right around $400,000. I don't want to look somebody in the eye that I just hired 6 months ago when the council comes back and says, hey, the recession's hit, we got to lay people off. I don't want to do that. That's not what, so I'd rather be fiscally responsible. I believe the police chief's the same way. I just think a $3.2 million hit long-term, right? I mean, if it was a one-time cost, I get it, but funding employees over that, I just feel like there's a challenge, and I agree, this is going to be an uphill battle with the citizens, but I think we have the ability to lay out the case. The need, I mean, for the fire department, our call volume is going through the roof with everything else that is going. There's not relief there. Our people are running, we almost ran 11,000 calls with 14 people. Comparatively, even in the county, we're not even close to the number of staff that people running the same call volume.
Lot of clear.
So this is just trying to think outside the box to be on the same page with the city.
Let's go back to Eric just
Yeah,
so you
just to
responded his
build on
comment.
that. So, chiefs, your proposal basically is saying, I need 17 people or whatever the number was, because we're gonna have a projected growth of this and this is to meet it, but we're not gonna be there overnight. So in other words, that's great. If that's what you're asking is a one-time ask increase property tax, but if we take care of this in-house, I would like the analysis not to assume that we got to fund $3.2 million right off the top. Normally, when we increase FTEs, we do it piecemeal. We do, and usually, if I recall correctly, we do police 1 year, fire the next year, three here, 5 there, or whatever it is. And I understand you have shifts. I get it. Adding by 1 doesn't help when you need to add by 4. I understand that. But I don't know if we need to have a full multiple of 17 that first year. So I would like an analysis done that way to say, okay, what is your minimum increase that would provide substantial relief to your officers and help cover shifts versus, oh, this is what we need when we were at 65,000 people. Just to be, clear on that.
Okay, so
Yeah,
to
real quick and then-
clarify on it, we're not asking for 1 year. I'm just saying the one, if you were to do it over 1 year, would be 3.2 million. We're saying 2 years. Onboarding 4 or 5 is a max that we can handle a year just because of everything that we need to do. We're not a huge department. So this is a 2-year plan to get it staffed. This isn't looking, this staffing that we're asking for is not looking 20 years down the road. We're trying to fix a problem now. We're behind. Now, this is gonna get us, if we were able to get this, this would get us really where we should be today. In 10 years or 15 years, we're gonna have another issue because with our growth and everything else, we're just not seeing call volumes, and we've got to be able to respond to the calls. So, this really will get us to where we need to be today. So, and again, we're not trying to fund this in one year. And we
Mhm.
did that over, we broke, I broke the numbers out with the spreadsheet. So, I mean, if the general fund could handle it, it would be fantastic.
Sounds good. I got a question of my own and then I can go to Denise real quick and then we'll see if we can get a consensus, just because I know we're gonna have to do multiple. And then I'll go back to Jennifer after Denise as well, since I finished up the first round. So one of the questions to clarify, I've kind of asked it before, I think I know the answer, but out loud. So we have been growing as a city and property tax scales with assessed value and house rates have also gone up. So the city overall has been taking in more property tax revenue. Is it fair to say, though, that the share of that goes to police and fire has not risen at the same rates? Maybe that's one for you, Director Riley. Is that, I'm not sure I'm articulating exactly.
I
right.
understand what you're saying. We'd have to do a quick look,
Mhm.
but to put that together, but we could provide that to council. That wouldn't take very much
Okay.
to see if there was some kind of growth there.
That'd be good, because I'm just thinking out loud, especially going to the taxpayers, which let me just say, I think absolutely they should be able to, decide, but to give them all the information. If they're looking at their bills and saying, wait, I've been paying more property tax over time, isn't that going to extra police and fire? I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, I can comfortably say proportionally, that piece of the pie has stayed proportionally the same size. So it has grown, but I don't believe it's gotten much greater of its proportionate share.
To keep up with the extra response rate and the growth of the city overall. Okay. And so, yeah, go ahead, Chief.
Well, to
Yeah.
answer your question, no, it hasn't kept up. In 2007, when we were at 66 bodies with 35,000 people, the recession hit, we lost 11 positions. And it took us until this council granted us 5 bodies to go from 59 to 64. We're still not at 66. And we're at, at 45,000 population. But also the laws have changed in such that our response to crime and our response to, we go to a lot of behavioral health. We still have to go to all of that. And it's not one of, in 10 years ago, you'd send 1 or 2 officers. Now we have to send 3 or 4. And we spend a lot more time on scene, really slowing things down, time, distance, and giving people a chance. So the service that we're providing is nowhere near what it was.
Having to do more with, less people. No. Unclear, but I think that makes sense out loud, that you're not funded by property tax alone, even though that has been increasing, not nearly enough of the rate to actually add enough to FTEs in that as it currently sits. Okay. Let's do a quick round of questions and then I'll try and sum up where we're sitting at.
Quick question around process again. When does the lobbyist get involved or whoever knows how to talk about this? Because we're hearing themes about not having the capacity to even serve who we currently have. We're looking for, population growth, down the road. But we're trying to manage the crime we already have that we're seeing going up. And yet, I've got to reiterate, when I look on an agenda and I see I'm going to get a full presentation on something, I don't feel like I got a presentation because you just talked to me. And Jennifer takes notes, so I can always rely on her and we'll have, all of this, but talking points about something like this would benefit this process very much.
Fair enough. It was really just more of an informational to see if we were to take the time to put staff time into it.
I get it a lot
So-
more than I did.
Jennifer?
Thanks. Okay, so I understand why it's hard to make presentations for us because you only have like one office coordinator that's managing everything. And so, but I think some of the talking points that might be helpful too. First of all, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting you're bundling them and not trying to do something that's just fire, police separate. And so, but we don't have to talk about the reasons behind that. But I think some things that might help for us is, I remember some of the figures that y'all were quoting to me, both chiefs were quoting about 1.4 per 1,000 people are needed, right? Like those kinds of figures help. You did send us the data on the crime statistics. Other data that would help is, what I learned about is the RCW requirements for the firefighters, EMTs when on a scene, that usually and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the 2 in, 1 out. Can you tell us about the RCW that requires your firefighters who can be in and who has to be outside of the scene as far as staffing?
Yes. All right, point of order.
What was that?
Because of the microphone, yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry, there was.
we
there
seem
was
to have
point
a
of order.
majority that would really like to see written information. And yet we are still discussing spoken information. I would like to halt this and at a time that is mutually agreeable, resume the conversation with data in front of
Okay.
us. Thank you.
Point taken. So Jennifer, any kind of last
Okay.
question? Yeah, I can help wrap up with that.
Okay, so information on that would be helpful for us to see, to compare. And then, cost of FTEs, including benefits. So I guess that's it. Thank you.
Fantastic. So let me just say, anybody opposed to getting this new information, anyone who would just absolutely not want to see this go on the ballot? All right, so not seeing that. It sounds like I've got a request for if it's possible to do it in-house, Director Riley, and pros and cons, for us to be able to do due diligence and look at that. And then obviously getting this all written up for folks to lay eyes on in terms of the specifics of the request and the FTEs and everything. But I'm hearing, I think, a consensus that we want to keep going on this. Personally, I think it's seems like a really good solution to Bremerton's issues and bringing us back up to par on our staffing per population. And I think the voters deserve a chance to, be able to weigh it, but so maybe 2 weeks from now, I'll be able to come back with the write-up, and Director Riley, I don't know if that's enough time. Okay. Unless you need anything more hard and concrete immediately to get going, or is that enough information to come back and then maybe we get a firmer head nod on writing it up?
Well, I guess I would
Yeah.
just like to be clear.
Sure.
On exactly what information do you want us to put the ballot language together or not worry about the ballot language? Or you just want statistics?
I think it's just making sure that what I've written down, and I think, Jennifer and others, of the 40 cents levy, the 17 FTEs, the positions proposed that go to, and I think saying out loud, we're not locked into those positions as it has to be the position if the ballot passes. That's just the proposal right now, correct?
Right.
Yeah,
mean,
okay,
Because
sure.
for me, if I hire a firefighter paramedic, they're gonna be a firefighter paramedic. If I hire a
that's- that
firefighter
wouldn't
EMTs, that's just.
Necessarily be in the ballot. it
chief
would just
may,
be, yeah.
move people around to what their needs are. and then-
Okay. So I think I'm hearing just the basic numbers we heard today of the proposed staffing levels, the levy rate, and some of that historic information on Bremerton staffing levels over time. Obviously showing what you discussed, that we're low compared to the past and, behind the curve. Anything else, council, I didn't capture in there? Eric?
So a long time ago, when the council used to be focused on annexation, we were very concerned with being competitive with the county. In other words, for the most part, in order to annex areas, you need the vote of the people that you're trying to annex. We were really laser focused on showing why being in Bremerton is a better value than the Kitsap County. And it can be a hard sell. So my concern would be, and the question is, and I understand, Kitsap County Sheriff's Office is severely underfunded. Do they have any intention, the county commissioners, of doing a property tax increase, or are they going to continue to let the sheriff's department, and you can correct me, Chief Wolf, if I'm misspoken here, but to correct the underfunding and lack of services, adequate services of the sheriff's department? Do they have anything on plan? Do you know?
I'm not aware of anything.
Is that an inaccurate statement I made about the sheriff's department? I think that's kind of well known that they're underfunded, or is that inaccurate?
I think over the years, our sheriff's office has been the least staffed of 39 counties.
So, and then likewise for the rest of the county, I believe, is served by fire districts. Even Bainbridge Island seems like a unique animal, because I was looking at on your next item, they have commissioners, so I don't believe they are directly a subset of Bainbridge Island, but there's a fire.
Sorry to jump in just to move us along. Can I sum it up that you'd also like to see a comparison to what the county?
No,
has funded?
so the
Okay.
county doesn't have, the county does not have fire departments. What I'm getting at is the other fire districts, have they gone to ballot measures for personnel? Or has it been just like Bremerton and they're just asking that for capital improvements and trucks?
No, the fire districts, and some of them have since expired, but they are able to run operation and maintenance levies for 4-year terms. The city is not, cities are not allowed to run operation and maintenance levies except for 1 year. So they have run operation and maintenance levies, Lakewood or Pierce County Fire District 2, which is now West Pierce. Since I was a kid, ran operation and maintenance levies, and it was all tied to staffing. So with different things in growth, departments run operation and maintenance levies for staffing and equipment, where the city, like for our fire trucks, we have to go to bond when we buy our fire trucks with the city. And then they'll do capital improvement bonds. And you saw Central Kitsap and South Kitsap both run large capital facility bonds. That way, but yes, the fire districts will use O&M levies for staffing.
Okay, and I guess that's what I'm getting at. Just the summary is, and maybe I'm the only taxpayer in this whole county that looks at that, but what is my value? I mean, am I getting a better bang for my buck for being in the city of Bremerton versus the county? If we're looking at annexation, and I think we will, to take care of these islands and all this, you don't want to hamstring yourself being the highest taxed part of the county and then say, hey, it's a great value to be here. And then you got the data that says, no, it's not. So that's something you have to consider.
Oop, hold on. I'll let Anna. Anna, all right. Anna. Yeah, Chief, sorry, just quick
What, just
response there.
Just to
then
kind of hit
let's wrap it
on
up.
what Councilmember Younger is saying is fire districts are junior taxing districts, and they are limited to a maximum of $1.50 per thousand for fire protection and 50 cents per thousand for EMS. We run the same EMS levies across the county. Everybody's at 50 cents, but fire districts are limited to that $1.50 a thousand. So they have to get creative sometimes within their funding. And if that fire levy fails, or there's a senior taxing district to them which can affect their taxing rate, then that creates issues for them. And so that's when they end up getting under
Yeah.
other funding sources. And really it's either bonds or O&M levies.
All right. So overall, I'm seeing folks want to do a lot of due diligence, which is fantastic. Get a little more information, but overall to keep moving forward on this in 2 weeks. So any other questions on the information being looked for? Okay, sounds good. I think we're going to move on unless you had something real short, Anna, and sorry, just a. Okay, perfect. Good deal. But let me say thank you both, chiefs, so much for working hard on this and coming up with a creative solution, because I know that I think as a council, we've spoken out loud how much we value having our critical community services in the city.
Well, thank you. Sorry, like I said, we were trying to keep it at a 30,000 foot level. Next time.
This
we'll go
council, we'd love to
bring-
dive bomb in right in. So, you know, get to the trees and yeah. No, it's good. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much again. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Tuesday's there. Yeah. I'm sorry, Jennifer was there. Oh, no, Judge Flood, I see your hand up, which,
Oh, well,
did you need to chime in on this one?
I was hoping to just add that at the safety committee meeting, Court Administrator Jennifer Johnson did want it to be known that any changes to the staffing, and she's on vacation, so I'm appearing via Zoom because she made me promise to. So greetings, I'll make this quick. Any increases to the staffing in the police department will have direct effect and impact on the courts. So it'll be important to look at that when we're looking at FTEs and how staffing will be impacted
Okay.
from the
duly
court
noted.
standpoint.
Next time this comes before council, and especially when there's a chance for public comment, we can get that factored in. Well, thank you so much. All
Thank
right,
you.
Sorry if I missed your hand earlier. Anything quick?
Oh, it's okay. Thank you.
Jennifer.
and just really quickly, I just sent this resource, something that to keep in mind is a property tax increase is another example of a regressive taxation method. So I just sent a resource for city council just to look at regarding progressive taxation ideas for municipalities. That is all.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll then move on to briefings on agenda bill items. So Chief McGanny, welcome back. Not that you left.
Thank you.
All
Hopefully
right.
this one will be simpler.
Sounds good. You're here to present mutual aid agreement with Kitsap County Fire Agencies for the provision of fire protection and emergency medical services.
So this is our mutual aid agreement with everybody in the county, and including the Navy. And so that agreement is expiring next month. And so before you is a late agreement with a 10-year contract length time.
So to clarify, we discussed this and passed this a year ago, if I remember right.
No,
no,
this
this
has
is
been
our-
a few years ago that this mutual aid agreement has been before the council.
Different one. Okay. Sorry. Yes, start with Anna.
This is a great idea. Do it.
All right, short and simple. Any other questions, Jennifer?
I don't know if, I mean, just having seen, you know, the MCO and how that mutual aid agreement, really has a benefit, especially to training and so on. Is this something that I'd like to hear if it should be on general or consent, just because it might be a nice opportunity to brag on the good efforts.
Definitely do that. I'm not opposed. Any other questions first, and then I'll bring that up, making sure. Nope, okay. No questions. I'd
I'll have
normally
to
be good
zoom
with
in.
consent, but Jennifer, do you want to put this on general for that exposure?
I
or
will be on
just wanna hear?
vacation next week.
Chief will be out, okay. Maybe lean towards consent, but maybe this is something. we
Oh,
can-
if you want to put on consent, let's go for it. Thanks.
Okay. Sounds good, especially since the chief's out, but I like the resounding positivity. All right, so this will go on consent for next week. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, chief. All right, next is B2. Parks Director Jeff Elevato is here to present the second amendment to the park use agreement for Kiwanis Park with the Corporation of the Catholic Archbishop of Seattle, doing business as Our Lady Star of the Sea School. Thank you, Director Elevato. Take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, council. Excuse my voice. In January of 2013, the city entered into a park use agreement with Our Lady Star of the Sea School for use of Kiwanis Park for recreational purposes during and recess and physical activity purposes. The initial term of this contract was for 10 years. We came to council in December once we learned that they were interested in extending another 5 years, which was part of their agreement. Council provided us the opportunity to extend to the end of this month. And we had a chance to talk with them, and we're coming back to you with a few minor changes to the agreement and ask for your approval. One thing I'll add is that the initial agreement included a $400,000 donation to the project. When we started talking about costs, we look at a rental fee of a park, roughly 30 some dollars per 4-hour rental, which works out to about $8 an hour. And using the park for 2 hours a day for roughly 170 school years is about $2,700. When we started extrapolating the 400,000 over those 10 years, that was $40,000 a year of donation. So even if you take that 400 and take, let's say, 200 out of that to use to build the playground, for example, over the 10 years at 200 would be 20. If we add additional 5 years, it's still $13,000 a year. So what we're asking for your approval is to just extend the contract with no change in monetary compensation at this point. We'll reevaluate this in 5 years and determine then if it's time for us to start asking for a rental fee. I would also add that the church and the school have both committed to helping us with some capital improvements and also cleanup, community cleanup days. So that's kind of how we brought it forward, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Cool, thanks, Director. Questions, Eric?
So, no issue with the additional consideration or lack thereof. I figured that out myself as well. They put a big down payment. I understand that. The, just the housekeeping on, under the recitals, first page, need to change that from 11:30 PM to 11:30 AM to 2:30 PM.
you.
Otherwise,
Well,
you know.
parks are closed at dusk. Yes,
yeah,
thank you.
they'd be partying and then whatever. Okay.
Thank you.
And then the other thing is kind of a, one counselor just picked that one up a little late. So the other thing is just a concern about the liability. It's a risk management question, and I understand our risk manager is not here, but she does work for Kylie, and maybe you could chime in here, Jeff. The $1 million combined single limit per occurrence, excess liability not less than 1 million per occurrence, and then you know, it's a bunch of gobbledygook. I'm not an insurance expert. Are we asking for enough insurance coverage, or is this the same standard clause that we've been carrying forward for year after year after year? In other words, I've got $1 million personal liability or umbrella policy that I've been carrying for years, and I'm thinking to myself, we have inflation. I probably need it up to 2. And I gotta imagine if someone gets hurt on the parks playground, I'm not sure $1 million, especially $1 million if it's just per occurrence, is enough if more than one child gets hurt. So that's the only question I have is, should we be looking at this, or has it been looked at to see if there's sufficient liability coverage?
I'd be happy to defer to Kylie, but I know that this was reviewed with our current risk management standards, WCIA, which is our insurance carrier. And this language was updated as part of this agreement. I guess I'd defer to Kylie.
Sorry, I was just, Anna was pointing to the screen behind me and I thought that there was something there. So you're distracting me. Yes, my understanding is that we have reviewed this and it's consistent.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council? Denise?
I just want to reiterate, I'm a big fan of public-private partnerships. And I really like this partnership and like to see that it continues. It's beneficial to everybody, I think.
So no hand from Jennifer, correct?
Yeah, my hand's up.
Oh, it is up. Okay, then yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jennifer.
I know
We're-
it's hard to see during, it's okay.
IT issue, so I can't always see you, so apologies.
Yeah, it's I don't know if y'all can see me or not, but I can't see you, but Director Elevato, let me go and lower my hand. So, what I want to make sure of, in this kind of a partnership is that so you said we had a $400,000 donation, and that was that 5 years ago, you said? I'm having a hard time hearing, so I'm gonna
10
just,
years, 2013, when the Kiwanis Park
10 years.
renovation project occurred.
Okay, so 400,000, 10 years, 40,000 a year. That's less than what you equate to, you said $8 an hour for park use?
Our current rate for park rentals are $32 for a 4-hour rental. per
Okay.
Bremerton Resident. So dividing that by 4 gets me to 8. And then we know that they use the recess and the sports activities for approximately 2 hours a day. That's what they're scheduled for. And then they can also use the park for other activities, special events, but that's run just like a regular rental that we do for the rest of the community. So they would pay the
Oh,
going
okay,
resident rental rate for that. But
so,
yes, that's
so
what
like
we-
if they're gonna have like a bonanza, like a school bonanza, whatever we call those, a fair or whatever, they would rent the facility separately, then this is just specifically for recess time for 2
that's
hours
correct.
during
As
school days.
the- Correct, as Councilman Younger helped corrected, thankfully, it's a specific time
Not till PM.
day that they use it, and it's only Monday through Friday.
Okay,
Then they'll do activities on a weekend, a special event thing, and that's just run like a regular rental. They
And so
pay
the-
rent
um,
rate.
no, I'm sorry.
No,
Sorry about that. I feel like I cut you off. I apologize for that.
No,
I'm
not at
still,
all.
I'm leaning in close because I am, it's okay. And so what I want to make sure of is that other groups that do rent the facility for educational use are treated in an equitable way. Are there other school groups, for instance, that use the public parks and do a rental fee for a certain period of time? And are they treated equitably?
I think so. We do rent to Catalyst for use of Manette Park. I would say Catalyst did not provide $400,000 worth of support to renovate the park. But we do work equally with that, and council approves the rate structure. And we apply the resident rate for use of those park spaces. So yeah, I would say we have a standard that we use, and we charge people equally.
Great. I'm
We
thinking
have
also,
the Opportunity to work with nonprofit groups and provide rental assistance or waivers based on the community need. And I'll also say that the Kiwanis usage is not exclusive use. The park still remains open to the public.
right.
Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, that does. Thank you. I'm thinking of like organizations like Barnacles and Bees, and you mentioned like the nonprofit angle where if they could possibly apply for a lowered fee or waiver, things like that. I just want to
I
make
would
sure.
say actually Barnacles and Bees is a commercial venture. They charge a fee for people to participate in their program, but they also do a lot of community service work. So we work with them, and as Councilwoman Fry mentioned, partnerships really work for us well. So
Yeah,
we get community benefit out of it, and we look at the rates and work through those.
thank you. I just wanted to make sure, that we weren't showing preference towards a religious entity as a, government, as a municipality. That was different than how we were treating other private organizations or entities. Just something I just wanted to check in on. Thank you for explaining that. It's all kinds of moving parts with this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Anna.
Thanks. Hey, good evening, Director Elevato. Thank you for explaining so many of the points you explained the last time you presented all of this. I know that several of us had concerns about the exclusive use, and you not only explained that the first time, you explained it in the written attachments, and now you've explained it again. Thank you. I just wanted to, if you could just talk briefly about any capital projects that were promised assistance.
Well, generally, we're looking at all kinds of capital projects, but particularly for Kiwanis Park, as council may be aware, we were awarded a generous donation from the Kiwanis Club to replace the playground equipment. And we also received a Department of Commerce grant to support the turf, which would be the, like evergreen turf, as I call it evergreen turf.
Yes.
Artificial turf, which makes it completely accessible. So those capital projects are the next on the list for Kiwanis. Other things include, we had a wooden fence that was around the perimeter of Kiwanis Park. And we think we got some bad lumber and it's just rotted in 10 years. So we just recently had to replace all along 4th Street, the fencing there for protection purposes. So there's always something in parks that we need to kind of do. And the commitment from the church and the school was that we're up for that. We will support you in that. And they had no issues with helping to raise funds to do those types of projects.
Okay, I'm enthusiastic about this project as well, just by the description that you gave of the use. So
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
the first time you presented, you were describing how the kids are and how the people who supervise them are. And right, that was really touched the heart. So thank you.
Fantastic. Seeing no other questions, my only question I have is just to ask any complaints from any other people visiting the park about the time when the school is using it?
And again,
diligence, yeah.
Councilwoman Mockler kind of alluded to it in our previous discussion about extension. I think that question was asked, so I think it's a great question. We did have some, I guess my comment would be the concerns we had were nothing that were outlandish or things that we couldn't manage. One concern was some folks who were walking the trail noticed a large group of kids running on the trail or on the walking path towards them. And they became a little fearful for fear of getting knocked over or hit. The kids are kids and they were just doing their physical activity. So we spoke to the principal, said, hey, we had a slight complaint about this. People were concerned. She spoke to the teachers, the staff, and the students both. And we're firmly convinced that they are the best citizens that they can be because they understand the importance of that. So I think it has a lot of value, not only in being good stewards of the park and good stewards of a community asset, but they're learning lifelong lessons and they're going to protect that park for the rest of their lives. So we've had minor ones, but they've been resolved completely. In fact, I even was really impressed with the process that they use to determine who gets to use the swings, because swings are really popular and they have a time thing that they do. And as soon as someone from the public that's not part of the school comes up and wants to use the swing, they move to the front of the line. So I thought that was a really good approach. Also, as you may know, there are 2 playground areas there, one for 2 to 5-year-olds and one 5 for 12. If there are any small children from the neighborhood at the 2 to 5, that's completely off limits to the school children. So I really feel like they're doing the best they can to be the best stewards. The only other, and it's not a complaint, it's a compliment, is that people that live around the neighborhood love to hear the kids playing on the playground.
In New York Park myself now, my husband and I joke all the time, oh no, the sound of children having fun outside, awful. That's great. Okay, how does council feel about consent for this? Trying to
Consent.
gauge. Going for general, all right. Sounds
Thank you
good.
very
Thank you
much.
so much, Director, for working with them on this and bringing it
Thank
to
you.
us. All right, so this will go on consent for next week. Next up, we have Internal Services Manager Chris Motner for item B3, street fund budget adjustment for the PSC owned streetlight LED conversion program. And this is a continuation from our study session 2 weeks ago. So welcome back, Mr. Motner, and thank you. Take it away.
So I am here to present the street fund budget adjustment for the PSC owned streetlight conversion program. I am presenting this on the Public Works Director's behalf and will give you some background information on this program from Tom's presented council summary sheet. So currently the city street illumination is accomplished using a combination of city-owned and PSC-owned streetlights, along with a few privately owned streetlights on private streets. To date, all 1,008 city-owned streetlights have been converted to LED. However, 178 of the 1,788 PSE-owned lights are high-pressure sodium lights. Currently, the HPS lights are replaced by PSE at their expense as they fail. And since these types of lights are being phased out, they are typically being replaced with LED type. With the current approach, it is estimated that all HPS lights will be converted to LED in approximately 10 years. To date, the city has not been eligible for grants to fund a programmatic LED conversion. However, PSE has advised of a new rebate program that results in a 4-year payback on the cost of the conversion. The proposed program would convert PSE-owned lights in phases of 120 lights with the goal to convert 4 phases each year. With this approach, all PSE-owned streetlights would be converted to LED in approximately 3 years. Under costs and savings information, the city pays PSE a monthly tariff to operate and maintain each of its streetlights. For 2020, the total cost was $425,000. Or 2022, the total cost was $425,000. There are several different tariffs with different costs depending on the wattage and whether a light is HPS or LED. As an example, the 2022 cost of a 100-watt HPS light is $14.72 a month, while a comparable 39-watt LED light is $11.61 per month. Given that, the cost to convert a light to LED is $256, and considering the $3 a month savings, it takes over 7 years to recoup the conversion cost, which has not been considered cost effective. PSE's rebate program reduces the conversion cost to $143 a light, which results in a 4-year payback and is considered cost effective. An added benefit of the LED conversion is that the new streetlights have a smart dimming mode, which can address customer concerns or improve efficiencies. It is anticipated smart node streetlights will be less affected by future rate hikes. The conversion would install new LED lights meeting city standard, including the 3,000 Kelvin CCT, and would be completed under 4 contract phases each year at a net cost of approximately $17,160 per phase. And so council action is not required for those. That said, a budget adjustment is required to fund the 2023 work. At the current tariff rate, the annual savings to the city would be approximately $59,000 once all lights have been converted. It should be noted that PSE advises the rebate value is adjusted each January and could be eliminated at any time. Should the rebate either reduce significantly or cease altogether, the city would stop the programmatic conversion. A table of estimated cost is provided in the council summary. Other advantages to the city of this proposed conversion project are that the LED street lighting has an increased energy efficiency. LEDs are energy efficient because they emit very little heat, so that they require far less power to emit the same amount of light as conventional equivalent lights. They have a much longer lifespan, high color rendering, and are quick starting compared to the older HPS streetlights currently in use. A typical HPS streetlight fixture lasts around 24,000 hours, and an LED equivalent can last upwards to 200,000 hours. So life efficiency is greatly increased with this program. As Tom had stated in the summary, the new LED lights would conform to the existing city standards and would have a correlated color temperature of 3,000 Kelvin, which is the city's approved color appearance provided by a streetlight. There are many other benefits of this PSE-owned streetlight conversion program within the city. These new LED smart streetlights will save the city money by using less energy and reducing carbon in our environment. These new LED streetlights will provide a positive safety benefit that will help to reduce serious injury or fatal crashes on our streets and help to deter crime with more functioning streetlights within the city. These new PSE lights will also have the ability to measure lighting consumption to allow actual metered billing to the city as opposed to the flat rate billings. So this PSE owned streetlight conversion program, as Tom has previously presented, will allow the city to reduce our energy usage, save money over time, and greatly reduce our carbon footprint. I will answer any questions you may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Mr. Montner. Again, enlightening information. All right, so just as a reminder, this we talked about 2 weeks ago. It went on general and then a request to remove it from general to discuss some additional concerns about refunding. So. All right, so and I just want to refocus the motion, recommended motion is to increase the street fund budget by 70,000 if we can keep the discussion focused mostly on the funding, I think at this point. So questions and comments, we'll start with Anna.
Thanks. Good evening, Chris. So, you gave us a figure, which is the figure I've been asking for a while. I think it was 3,000 Kelvin. That's the definition of the city lighting standards. That's the warmer light. Great. So that really the two things I wanted that I particularly wanted with this were first, that be included as part of the motion. And the second thing is, what luck have you had in finding alternate funding sources than REIT? Which is, the street fund, taking money from the street fund. I see a hand.
Yeah, I'm going to direct
Behind
you for
me.
that one.
Hey, Chris, if you don't mind, I'll jump in for that one. Without looking at pushing any other projects, there's not a fund balance that's available with any other funding source other than REIT. We looked at other projects that they would cancel to move off. And that's not recommended by the administration at this point. So right now, the funding source that's available to move forward would be real estate excise tax.
You got any follow-up questions? Yeah.
I'm not saying bad language here. So one of what Director Nucky said last time he presented this was that if the money, if this motion does not carry, that it will continue with as the streetlights fail, PSE will replace them and they'll use these 3,000 Kelvin. They're going to use the same stuff, the same type of LED bulb in the lights.
Yes, that's correct. It'd be to our city standards within the city limits.
There, you put it so much better than I. Okay. I really don't want to steal from Reed, but I am one of 7, so I'm just stating my position. That's it.
Other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'd say I personally understand the concern of using REIT funds, which can be used for other cases, but to me, this being able to get these replaced quickly, more energy efficient, environmentally friendly, and it seems like we're getting a significant cost savings to the city in the long run. Seems like a good move to me personally. So with that said, I'm not seeing any. Do folks want to do consent or on seeing that you okay with consent? Okay, no.
General
Um,
business, please.
Business.
General
Okay.
business, please. Oh, thank you, Anna.
Excellent. Okay. Nope, then this will go on general business for next week. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Montner.
Thank you.
Right, and that brings us to, I'm gonna check the time. Folks need a 5-minute break or?
I
All
think
right.
we might need a 5-minute break before the next item.
All right, yeah, sounds good since we're an hour and a half. So it's 6:30. Let's convene at 6:37. All right, take our seats, council. All right, call the meeting back to order. Next up is item B4. We have City Attorney City Attorney Fennell here to present ordinance adding chapter 9.90 to the Bremerton Municipal Code entitled Controlled Substances. And this is just a continued discussion from 2 weeks ago as well, where I believe the council appreciated getting all the facts on the table and wanted to just learn more. So take it away.
So I did want to provide an update on a few things since we last spoke. One of the issues that many of you asked about was, well, what is the state going to do about the Blake decision? And we have had movement in that regard. On Friday, my office provided commentary on substitute Senate Bill 5536 that's scheduled for an executive session at the Senate Ways and Means Committee tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. That substitute Senate bill is one of these Blake fixes. It makes possession a gross misdemeanor. We did have some commentary on it. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's definitely something that the legislature is doing to address the Supreme Court decision that we discussed last time. And so if the state legislature did eventually pass this piece of legislation, it would supersede this action that's being considered by the council. So that's something to keep in mind. It is different in that it is a possession offense. The state is considering not a use. It's also a gross misdemeanor rather than a misdemeanor, which is a more serious offense. But I did want you guys to know that because that might impact whether you want to consider that this more at this time or at a later time to see what happens with that bill. And so, does anyone have any questions about that part before I move on to the other parts?
Sure. Quinn, then Anna.
Thank you, Kylie. What's the timeline for the bill? Like, when are they planning on?
All that I have right
now.
now from the state website is just that it's in committee tomorrow morning. I know that the current legislation sunsets in July, so my understanding is that it's a priority for this session.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anna. Oh. Thanks for sharing the mic.
Thank you. So we were, one of the things about SB 5536 is that both Senators Randall and Rolfs from both of our two legislative districts are sponsors of this bill. And I'd just like to add as briefly as I can, that I listened to what people said when this was previously discussed, and I did 4.5 hours of research, and I have changed my original position. One thing I really like about 5536 is that it provides a very clear pathway for not just, I know this is the wrong word, rehabilitation, for the offenders, but also for having that expunged from their record in a 3-year period. My personal preference would be that we defer to the state on this and take it up once this bill has either passed or died.
Any other, yeah, Denise.
I think I've mentioned a few times that I flip-flopped with this, and we've heard a lot of people talk about it and the concern that I share about adequate services being in the community. It sounds like what I'm excited about this bill, and although I think it probably presents what I'm excited about, presents the greatest challenge, is it's funded. So they've got to find the money for it. I hope that happens, but it does seem like a good direction, a good positive direction. The gross misdemeanor, Kylie, that carries, they go to.
Maximum penalty of up to 364 days in jail.
Okay.
So it is a county jail,
Okay.
not a DOC center.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Jennifer.
And was, Ms. Fennell, was there gonna be any further explanation or discussion about this? Because you were just like asking specifically, do we have questions about the process? But are you going into more of a presentation?
Adventure style presentation.
Oh, I missed those
If
books.
I shared this part and everyone was actually got the information that they wanted on this item, that it may be that the direction that the council was going was to
Okay.
wait and see how the legislature was going. I wasn't going to keep going with other stuff if that's how you wanted to go.
And And so once it gets out of,
Yeah, that's certainly our options is to, just like last time, general business next week, punt it to 2 weeks from now, punt it till after the general legislative session, or just completely strike it.
and so the question, well, I just heard somebody say, so just to, after it gets out of Senate Ways and Means, and it goes to the House for consideration where it's gonna be, just, but the temperature of the legislature is there is going to be something that's passed, but it does still need to go through the House for consideration and amendment, and then back, then it gets, and it goes back and forth sometimes. So just about the process, that's my understanding of it. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Fennel, but I think y'all know where I sit on this issue.
There's still quite a bit of work to be done down in Olympia on this. What I was bringing it up for was that at our last discussion, there had been, I guess, been not really a front runner in the legislations, the bills that have been introduced, and it looks like one has at least made it to committee. And I know that in between now and our last discussion, many of you have actually met with our legislators, and so I just wanted to, if that is the temperature of the room, I wasn't going to continue with a full presentation on the other issues if everyone wants to just wait and see what the legislature is going to do.
I would personally like to request that we pull it from our agenda.
Eric?
Yeah, I'm okay with, so not knowing the history of SB 5476, but I think I'm hearing that 2 Democrat senators are behind the bill. So I think everyone understands that our Washington State Legislature and our governor are controlled by Democrats. So I assume this is highly likely to pass. I don't want to expend a tremendous amount of resources on an ordinance that actually, in some respects, is much more lenient than the state. Gross misdemeanor, we're proposing a misdemeanor, which is up to 15 days. 90, but and more likely than not, I think we had a discussion, it was going to be as minimum as 15 days, and we had all this discussion. The last time we met, we were asking, where's Chief Wolfe's position on this? Because really my intent in hearing about these ordinances, what I'm hearing from, at least anecdotally through news reports from police officers, saying this is a great tool in the toolbox. And before we conclude tonight, I'd like to hear from Chief Wolfe whether this is a good tool in the toolbox. And based on, look, quite frankly, if the police chief tells me, no, this is a useless ordinance, I got to take his word for it, and I'm not going any for it. I'm not ramming this down the police department's throat. But if it's something the chief says, I think my police officers could use it, much like they stated in Marysville, then I say, okay, let's see how SB 5476 goes. And if it doesn't pass, then we revisit it. We don't put a time deadline on it. I thought almost all bills have to go through committee and go forward except for transportation and something else. But maybe this is another one that they'll say it doesn't have, it can continue on without becoming whatever, going forward at a certain definite time. So if you guys would be okay with it, I'd like to hear from Chief Wolfe, and then we can go ahead and set this one aside and wait for the outcome of 5476 when our council president finds out what, if it passes, then fine, nothing. If not, we bring it back.
Chief Wolfe, yeah, you want to weigh in with your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we approach it a little different than I think people understand how we actually look at it from a law enforcement perspective. First and foremost on my mind is a young man named Cody. I came across Cody on bike patrol this summer with a needle in his arm, and we talked to him for an hour, and there was nothing we could do. We could have arrested him in the past, would have been a felony. He would have gone and been held, and he would have had several exit strategies to go get help, drug court, all kinds of things. Even having lost friends to fentanyl overdoses, there was nothing we could do or say to get him to get help. Our navigators have contacted hundreds of people. One person has taken help for drugs. The other side of this coin though is, and the state talks about a clear path. What clear path? Who's going to provide drug services? Who are they? Where are they? Where's the detox? Some of the things that they're proposing would have an officer sitting at the hospital for 6-7 hours. We can't do that. The other thing that the state has done, talking with our county prosecutor, Chad Enright, your drug offenses were at a felony level and the state was required to house them. The state was required to pay for the courts. This is putting the burden back onto the city of Bremerton and the county at a level that, the judge should weigh in on this too. Can our courts handle a huge wave of this? So that's, I'm not giving you a direct answer because on the one hand, it'll break my heart if Cody dies. And Cody's one of hundreds of people out here suffering because, and the state is choosing not to provide what we need to help these people. And it's hugely frustrating. Now, if I shift back to just purely law enforcement, our crime rates from last year are up in every category. Drugs drive most all of that, as you know. Our behavioral health issues are exacerbated by people self-medicating. And we're getting crazier and crazier drugs that are easier and easier to take on the streets all the time. So yeah, it's we have to do something. I think I lean what Kylie's recommending is we kind of wait and see what the state does. And then see if that's even going to be effective and what resources are there, because it might just be a false flag to say that, oh, we're creating this law. There's no way to enforce it. If I can only arrest the person and put them into the system if there's a bed for them at detox, well, there are no beds at detox. That's the frustrating part. The discussion we've had over behavioral health. There's no one coming out here and helping our behavioral health people on the street. The state has not come up with money. They've said a lot of things. But again, you still have officers dealing with behavioral health. We have the help of our navigators. And we're doing everything we can. So yeah, it is an absolutely uphill battle on both of those fronts. And I think it's affecting our city and our state in a way that we've never seen before.
Okay, so let me just follow up on that. First of all, a correction. I'm looking at AWC and 5476, but I've been corrected. The current bill is 5536. I guess that's continuing. Let me just summarize then, Chief. We're going to wait to see the council, more likely than not tonight, will say, we're going to wait to see how 5536 goes if it becomes law. If not, would you be open to addressing something at the local level to at least try to address this? Whether it's this ordinance or some variation thereof that, working with the courts or whatnot, we got to address it somehow. Don't you agree? We can't just continue going down the same road.
I 100% agree with you. And if, depending on which way the state was leaning, I would probably recommend, no, we need to do it now. Let's put our own ordinance in place. It looks like theirs is going in a good direction right now. But again, I don't have a lot of, with all the things that have been handed down, and there's other legislation coming down on top of that that affects law enforcement, how we do our jobs. Our ability, we're not going to clean the streets up overnight with a law like this. And we have to consider the impact to our courts. Can our court take on this deluge of cases? If we don't do anything, we're condemning people.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Chief. Any other questions, comments? Folks who haven't spoken yet. Yeah, then I'll just say it was helpful to, I'm sorry, Anna, did you spoke on this one, right? I just want to.
Because the chief was not here, Jennifer Johnson of the courts said that they were completely unequipped to handle the increased caseload that this would bring.
Yeah, they did give that comment. I think, it was helpful. As I said, Anna, Jennifer and I met with, different, all the representatives in Senate, and this was something we brought up. And I think it was helpful to at least be able to say, this is something we're looking at, because we recognize it's an issue in the city. It's an issue in the state. And so I think it was helpful for them to at least hear, this is something we would like, ideally, the state to address. I think where I'm at in looking at this ordinance is that, I just, want to be clear, because I know there was a little confusion that what's before us, is prohibition of use in public, not possession. And the state one, of course, would be possession. So I'll leave it there. It sounds like, council, you're looking to, I think I'm seeing a consensus. I'm just looking for head nods to basically put this on or table it until after the legislative session, or until we know if that bill were to be suddenly, stricken and there's no path forward, then we can bring it up sooner. But otherwise, see what comes out of legislative session, and we can pick it up again. Perfect. Okay, but yeah, I agree. We need to do something, and just leaving people to waste away is not an option. Jennifer, last comment.
So the consensus is, just to clarify, is to table this for the future to see what the state's gonna do. I had made a request to pull the agenda bill, but procedurally, I don't know if that was recognized or heard.
Gotcha. Nope, but definitely heard that. I think I'm seeing head nods. Not that we don't want to ever discuss this again, but we'll see how the legislature plays out and bring it back if needed.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Final comment?
From me? No.
Oh, sorry. That's for Anna. Sorry.
Just to make sure that we have somebody who's going to be officially following 5536. Either you, Jeff, or Attorney Fennell.
Attorney Fennell's on it. I think, yeah, we talk every week, so.
Yeah, we're following all of them.
Yeah, we'll know what happens. Okay. So so whenever that either passes or does not pass and goes out, then we'll bring it up ad hoc at a study session and see path forward. As a quick briefing. Okay. So I think with that, we're good. We got some clear direction. So thank you again, Chief and Attorney Fennell, for updating us on all that. Perfect. All right. And with that, we'll move on to general council business, and like to invite Public Works Committee Chair Anna Mockler to provide a summary of the meeting held on February 21st.
So the very first item on the Public Works agenda was a second contract amendment to the Manette Beach sewer. You'll all remember that this was slowed down ginormously by the discovery of human remains. The first contract amendment was for an extra almost 68,000, bringing it up from 412 to 479, roughly 480. The second modification is going to add almost $184,000. It's adding design permitting up to 90% plus construction support all through submittal review. One particularly difficult reason for this second contract modification is one property owner has their property goes almost right to the bulkhead, and Public Works had expected that there was a ledge, because there's a ledge on that bulkhead where they could put the grinder pump. But the property owner is concerned that this bulkhead will be stressed by the placement of the grinder pump. Okay, just checking. And therefore, the HPA, the hydraulic project approval, the thing you have to get anytime you put like a toe in the water in Washington State, is going to have to be amended. So there's that from this cause and from the fallout of discovering the human remains, the management reserves of $50,000 are tapped. And Public Works will be coming back to ask for another 30,000. I'd just like to take this opportunity to say that one comment that stood out very much for me was we like to accommodate property owners. I think that perhaps we might want to look at how much accommodation we are giving to property owners. In my opinion, someone's feeling that their bulkhead will be stressed is something that should be checked, with facts and engineers and so forth. So this is my opinion entirely. It is not one expressed by Public Works. So I am moving right along to the other things that were happening. We are putting in over 11,000 foot of cure-in-place sewer rehabilitation. This is ginormous. The map is currently I just received today, and I will be sending to council. It's evenly distributed among all the districts. Cami Apfelbeck, the Water Division Manager, presented on various things that are happening in the Water Department. They're doing some proactive work to make sure that iron and manganese are not contaminating various wells. They're just checking levels. One of the things about iron and manganese is they're powerfully attractive for heavy metals like cadmium, lead, arsenic. So, not something you want to have in your water. So I thought that this was great that water was doing this before it becomes a problem. The complete streets map is currently available, and that's something that I will also forward to council in case that hasn't already been done. And in the near future, we will receive the maps for the annual pavement markings and annual pavement preservation projects. Excellent. And Tom Nucky is having a birthday. He's in Arizona. So anytime anyone wants to embarrass him by calling him up and wishing him a happy birthday, please do it. It works real well.
We could all sing as a council right now and send it.
That concludes my, the Public Works. Oh, and sadly, Councilor Younger was not able to attend, and I'm just gonna say right out loud for the record that it's always like a lack when he does not.
Cool. Thank you so much for the Public Works update, Anna. Just a question, was the rechannelization of 6th Street discussed at all? Only because I saw an email this week on it.
It was, and actually that was, we started talking about that before the meeting began, but Director Nucky says that they cannot, here's his statement, that they cannot do the 6th Street channelization for bikes without funding, that they will require funding of $2.5 million in order to accomplish that channelization. They will be bringing it to council on March 8th or the 22nd.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Any other quick questions for Anna? Okay, moving on to the next one. Council members that are on regional or other committee boards provide an update, and I'll just go right back to Anna because I know there's a Kids Up Transit meeting and there's a head nod looking for us.
Okay, so major disclosure, you heard it here second. The Energy Summit will be happening on March 30th. The bulk of the Kids Up Transit Board meeting was the exploration of alternative fuels. One was hydrogen, which is being used in quite a few places. And of course, California is our closest, most natural reference here on the West Coast. We have borrowed buses from California municipalities that are using them, and there's great enthusiasm for it. One thing about the hydrogen is that you wouldn't really have to change the structure of the buses. I mean, it would have a tank, you would fill it with a hose. It's very similar. They took a field trip down to California in the middle of the winter and watched, just regular citizens filling up their hydrogen cars. For me, the most exciting is a European company called Neste, which uses algae to power engines. And is it cost effective now? No, it is not. But there is a subsidy from the state of $1 a gallon. And one thing that's wonderful about this algae, apart from it being the greenest fuel you could possibly imagine, is that it also possesses extraordinary lubricity. So it actually extends engine life by, so the parts are not grinding against each other. Another alternative fuel that they're looking at, it is not really a fuel, but they're like plates set into the ground and which transmit via radio wave. It's like Wi-Fi charging, except it works. So basically you can just drive a bus over it and that bus will charge. You can drive it for an hour and come back and it's charged up in 5 minutes. Bada bang. There was also talk about the low NOx propane. And yeah, that was the impetus for all of this is that state law mandates a 40% reduction in emissions. So it's like whatever way it's going to take to get there. And Kitsap Transit is diversifying because another thing the pandemic taught us is you have all your eggs in one basket. That doesn't work well. So the hydrogen, the low NOx propane, the algae, gesundheit, and the battery electric vehicles. Hang on, almost done. And the legislator is being lobbied to allow public transit benefit areas to retail the hydrogen because now only the PUDs can do it. I don't understand the thrust of that, but there seem to be many people reacting to it with gasps of surprise. So over to you. That's it.
That's one. There we go. And then I believe there was a letter you were looking for council support on to sign on to for, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it's an electric fast foil ferry. And this is due on February 24th. It is in your packet, yeah? Hang on.
I think it was sent by email.
Okay, so it should have been sent to you by email, but it's basically just saying, do we want to express support for the development and implementation of an electric fast foil ferry, which could be used throughout the region. I mean, it can even do the Bremerton Seattle trip. So I'm now asking, is a majority of council interested in supporting that?
And this is a letter to the U.S. Department of Transportation and Secretary Buttigieg. Sorry, Pete.
Who's better than you?
Perfect. So I think we're looking for either the options are you could sign on as the KT representative. If all council is supportive, we could say the Bremerton City Council or individual folks can put their name on it. So I don't know if anybody had thoughts, Eric.
So I briefly read the letter. I understand this is a grant opportunity. There's no cost to the city of Bremerton for supporting this. Obviously, all kinds of things would have to be vetted out, and I assume that's part of the grant process. I think most of us are aware of all the damage to bulkheads from the fast ferries going way back to, goodness gracious, the Calthorpe plan in 1997, and forgot the names of them, but that's the reason I moved here a long, long time ago, was those fast ferries that never, what were the names of the Snohomish, and they're the first one, but in any case, complete failure. So I looked at the designs of these and it's like, well, I assume Clausen and company or at least have enough knowledge to know whether these would create a wake or not, or if we just wasting taxpayer money. So I assume that answer has been vetted, that these are not creating a great wake because he was here during that whole fiasco. So given that, and that's the taxpayers aren't on the hook, it's just, yeah, we'd support Kitsap Transit getting a grant to explore this. Perfectly good with that and not controversial whatsoever for me.
Just to Eric's comment, Karen her email address is Karen Mop, but of course that can't be a person's name. Who owns waterfront property on Manette, was very urgent that I walk her property with her to determine wake. And I have a basic knowledge of how armoring, like once you armor a coast, you almost sort of increase the impact and the velocity and the frequency of waves striking that coast, right? It's like sort of a martial arts thing, like if you punch somebody and they fade back. Yeah, but I just don't have the knowledge of hydrology, and of coastal ecology. I'm not a specialist in those areas. So if anyone on council has a solution for that, I simply can't offer expert knowledge, just sympathy.
Good. So I get back to the letter at hand. Yeah, hopefully these new ferries would cause even less erosion. All right. Any opposition to putting from the city council supports the DOT allocating money for this? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So then, yeah, Anna, if you're able to put the whole city council on there, and if you want to say as a representative of the Kitsap Transit Board for Christine, perfect. And then Mayor, let me say out loud, do you want to sign on as well on the same letter or do a separate thing, or I just want to extend the invitation?
I get these letters quite a bit and I've already generated one and sent it
Okay.
out.
Perfect. Oh, good deal.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, we'll look at two strong letters of support. Perfect. All right, thank you, Anna, for bringing that to us, and the update on Kitsap Transit. Any other updates on regional boards or anything else? Nope. All right, so let's move into the fun part, final draft of our 2023 council goals and priorities. So sorry for just getting this to you yesterday, kind of last minute, but Mike, are you able to promote me to a panelist on Zoom, and then that way I can just share it on the screen? And so what I did from the 2 weeks ago, sorry, no, was that a week? 2 weeks ago, there we go. So I just took council's priorities, and basically everything that averaged out to above a 5, went on the list. Let me pull it up here. And so I think what I have is I sent out the same spreadsheet we've been working off of with the numbers, just for transparency. And then I took that, came up with a draft, which I'll share here. And then my hope is we can just stare at this draft. You know, if we need to go back to the spreadsheet for reference, but take suggestions and comments on any tweaks to wording. You know, even if we want to remove or add something, we can at this point, but hopefully this is close to finish. We can spend the next half hour or so finishing it up and then have something everyone's happy with.
I have a suggestion
Absolutely.
that you just bring up the category. This is like Jeopardy.
All right.
And then anyone has any issues with any of the
Yes.
items, we go and then move on to the
Absolutely.
next.
Perfect. Yeah, no, my category sounds great. Let me make sure this is displaying. Hey, perfect. Here we go. So let's say not worry too much about the colors and everything. I just kind of whipped it up so we can make it look pretty. Staff did an awesome job. But I just want to get it somewhat presentable so people can see what it was looked like. So perfect, but in the broad layout sense, it's as we talked about by category. So we're not saying that affordable housing is less important than transportation or vice versa, but they're all up there. And then instead of numbers, I kind of played and decided on check boxes, which is kind of done in the past. So these are sorted right now, top to bottom on kind of what was the strong general, you know, priority minus difficulty. So we can move these around, but that was generally how it was, just for I think our own internal reminder. But you know, if the public looks at this, it'll be mostly check boxes as we go through the year trying to get these done. Any opposition to that general broad format? And then perfect. All right. Yeah. So then let's dive down in each category and just go starting at the top left on transportation, and I'll zoom in here. So we ended up with those 4 bullet points there on the sidewalk plan, non-motorized transportation, bikes and scooters, and the identify additional funding for residential street maintenance. I'll just say any suggestions to tweak language or modify or add or move. Anna.
Public Works is already working on a 5-year sidewalk plan. So
I mean, I don't know how we can do that since it's already happening.
I would say our goal and our desire that gets executed by administration, and the fact that they're already on it is great. And it's obviously
it.
one of our top priorities,
Um,
and that'll
got
be
it.
an easy one to check off in my opinion.
No, that makes sense. And we would review and update the non-motorized transportation plan?
Well, they have to come from Public Works as well. So I think we're saying it's our priority and our goal that gets reviewed and updated.
Got it. Okay. And then I love I hate I'm just moving past number 3 because that's clear. But this is a question I asked 2 weeks ago, which is how do we identify or secure additional funding?
Well, this probably, and I'm gonna make it fair to Eric here, because I know it's been his forte, but I would look to this as we go to budget season and say, hey, we agree that this was a council priority and a goal to come up with extra funding for residential streets. Let's keep that in mind as we go through the budget process. And we're saying out loud ahead of time before that budget process, that is what we desire to see that addressed in the budget. Yeah. Allocate can be a better word. Yeah. Eric, do you want to?
No,
No.
no, I don't think allocate. So historically, as you said, this has been in my wheelhouse. And through the years, and not always with the blessing of the mayors, I'm not talking about necessarily the current one, but previous ones as well. I identified additional funding and wrote the ordinances, and the council passed them to provide money for streets. We pass the ordinances, and in some cases, council members write them. So you can do that as well. And you don't have to wait for budget time. It's in our wheelhouse to write ordinances. And I suggest people give it a try if they want to. You come up with an idea. You just got to brainstorm, go through the budget and just kind of figure things out. And then when things pop up, you go, oh, when things like, oh, the street cameras, what happens to that revenue? Well, let's make this fair. Any profits from the street cameras go on the streets. That way it doesn't look like we're profiting from these things. And the rest of the council passed it. There's all kinds of ideas like that are littered in the budget. So I think the administration can be told to go ahead and identify additional funding at budget time. And in the meantime, the councilor members can put on their thinking hats and come up with some ideas, and throughout the year, ask the council president, can we put this on an agenda bill item, work with the attorney and come up with an ordinance?
And I would like to say, once this is finalized as a document, then definitely want to make sure we don't forget it. And I'd like to revisit it every, at least once a month, and just see the progress we're making and make sure that either a committee or individual or somebody is tackling kind of each item as able. Any suggested? Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. Yeah, you tell me. Go ahead, Jennifer.
There's different language, that's complete a sidewalk policy versus what you have, which is complete a sidewalk plan. Is there any
Right.
real difference? I think
Thank you. I
policy
did,
is more like what we do and plan would be more like.
And I
with
didn't
it
mean to
from-
say that out loud. I wanted to point it out. There were a few, when putting together the document, I did make a few wording tweaks compared to what was on the spreadsheet we were working off on. So thank you. I want to make sure those are clear. In that case, I changed policy to plan after seeing some Director Nucky's emails to a citizen who was concerned about it. And I think it sounded like sidewalk plan was the term that they were preferring from Public Works. But I can ask Ned Lever, sidewalk plan instead of sidewalk policy for. Okay, but it's for public facing understanding.
I can't hear. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Ned was nodding that he thinks plan is probably better over policy.
Okay.
Good, Cass. Thank you so much for pointing that out. All right, any other suggestions on transportation? Are we happy with it as is?
Just that plan sounds like you're actually going to do something. Policy sounds more like 10,000 foot. Hey, wouldn't this be great? And let's have this. If all things were, yeah. So plan definitely.
All right, perfect. All right, under the equity portion, I believe this we had as, I pull up my list. Initially I throw the title, equity in government. I changed it to advancing equity. Again, happy for any feedback, whether folks like that or not. And then for draft ordinance to create permanent, I think we had the original wording was just race equity commission. I threw in a /DEI commission, just because I know probably one thing that we'll have to make a decision on, not to necessarily hash out right now, is whether to call it a race equity commission, call it a equity commission. I think I forwarded something from Olympia where they have a social justice and equity commission. So I just wanted to leave us wide open enough on this to have that discussion, but when I'm kind of going to look to you as chair to see if you're okay with this wording or whether to change it.
Yeah, I think I have to separate, my personal views versus council views, and my plan, after speaking with city attorney and some other folks, but not having a rolling quorum, is to present REACT's recommendation alongside a written ordinance that had legal input based on that recommendation, and then kind of give a slideshow presentation that guides council through, well, what is the purpose of this commission going to be? What really do we want it to do? Then thinking about what the community wants it to do. So my personal preference has always been focusing on race equity. That council might be leaning in a different way, or maybe not, I'm not sure. So that'll be a decision for us as a body to move. So I'm fine with the slash being there. And then I'll provide some literature along with that presentation to kind of at least put my personal views of censoring race along with what REACT wanted and wants out of the ordinance. And then, of course, it's an advisory committee, so it's up to council what it actually looks like when we pass.
Okay, thank you. That's super clear. Any other comments or desires to change what's currently up there? The folks are good. All right. Moving along, environmental stewardship. So I think this one wasn't filled out before, how it shook out in terms of council average priority. I don't think I changed any of the wording here. So this is basically exactly as we talked about on the spreadsheet. Folks a second to stare at it and think if they want any tweaks or changes. Anna.
I sent an email to the president and vice president today about, I think, 6 different policies that would encourage environmental stewardship. And Eric, the reason I smiled when you were talking is that I had asked to present today and it's pushed forward to present 2 different ordinances that I want to change the language on, because I have been listening to you over the years. So that's about it. Just, I don't want to slow everything down here, but at some point I'd like to talk again about the continuing support of programs, but not tonight.
Okay. I appreciate that. For transparency, the 2 items I didn't include up here based on council's ranking was hire a Civic Spark fellow for sustainability audit that came in low, and then create it. Yeah, we can definitely keep, looking off, but I did not have it written here. And then creating a plan for establishing Sylvan Park that came out as a 4.7 out of 5. Sorry, I'm sorry. I messed it up again, didn't I? Sylvan, yeah. So I don't know if you want to make a case for that, Denise, yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
I'm gonna make the case
Yeah.
every time I can.
Sounds good. Okay,
It's all about equity.
perfect. All right, any other requested changes to this section? Mayor, sorry, I should have said out loud if mayor and staff have any major concerns over any of these, if any of them are just totally wild, let us know. Staffing, so I guess I don't want to be transparent here. So we had update charter related to city auditor. I just reworded that to update charter section on city auditor, little section. And then, this was a significant change I made, so I want to be transparent. We had make auditor full-time position. And I put that as review and update auditor staffing level. And I know, Anna, I'm looking to you to see if you're comfortable with that change, because there might be an in-between of,
Yes,
yeah, okay. Of maybe it's an extra 8 hours a week and not full-time. Yeah, yeah.
although, I have to say, I'm really terrified by the whole update charter thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't like the wording there.
Okay.
And so I would say review charter section on city auditor, or review charter section on city auditor, or, you know, it's got to go to the vote of the people. So however you want to wordsmith that, Jeff, I'd be good with.
Sorry, I just missed that one part to the,
Goes to the
Sorry,
Actually,
you
you
said
can
for the
leave it just
people?
as is, review charter section on city auditor, and then after the review, we decide whether it goes to the vote of the people.
gotcha.
So
Oh,
just
okay.
leave it
That's
the
what
way
I was
it is.
gonna recommend. Just leave
Okay.
it at review. and then
Yeah,
figure it
okay.
out.
Perfect.
And
I
then
like that.
the last one is, I understand what you're saying, but it's like, huh? So I think I myself, I think you're really getting into the wheelhouse of the administration.
Hmm.
And I really think it should be struck.
This one I know, and I think you brought it forward, and the change I did make was the comma and vice versa. Yeah,
That's 0.
Or MasterCard versus.
I spoke to,
thank you.
which I missed it, sorry. Come on, joke again. I spoke to Director Nucky about this, and he very politely informed me that I was wrong. Wrong. And that the differential, and I'm looking at you, Director Riley, that the differential was not so much with contractors, but with consultants. That was where you were getting something that could be done in-house for X, and it was paid for, when you paid for a consultant, it was 3X. Director Nucky, who I believe uses more consultants than other departments, is that more or less accurate, do you think? That was something that he was actually looking forward to doing this, that he thought that this would be fruitful. I'm listening to the objections of everybody else and constantly remembering that I am only one of 7.
Quinn? I'm sorry, then
I
Jennifer.
think
yeah.
Jennifer had her
Sorry, yeah,
hand up first.
Jennifer
Yeah.
first. Yeah, sorry, thank you. I apologize, Jennifer. I keep.
Oh my gosh, I've been unmuted this whole time. I hope you didn't hear all my personal commentary. No, I didn't say anything bad, but one thing that my first thought on this is, yeah, I do feel like it's kind of an administration's wheelhouse, so I kind of agree with Eric that we should strike it. And also, you know, it is really nice sometimes to have outside consultation. And so I don't want us to lose that outside consultation. Although they're being paid by us, sometimes they're a little less biased. That's all.
I don't want to keep kicking the dead horse, but yeah, I would not want to handcuff the administration. I believe that they're the ones closest to the work and can make the decisions of whether or not hiring internally or outside makes sense. So I'm okay with striking it as well. Sorry, Anna.
We'll say, let me ask the audit committee chair, though. This could potentially be an item for the audit committee to consider and do an independent analysis of if they think
Yes.
there's positions in the city that are currently, yeah.
Yes, this is, we are looking at the work plan. Looking at you, Mr. Dennehy, at the upcoming meeting. And this is one of the things that the committee will consider. And, it's possible that this is not, it's something that we are definitely looking at. For me, the impetus here is to have people who work here, people who are loyal to the city, people who have historical knowledge, that you simply can't get with a consultant. But I can see that the majority is against me, so let's move it to the audit committee.
Sorry about beating a dead horse. So either, sounds like strike it. I'll just throw out, we could say encourage audit committee to conduct, but nope, I'm hearing no to that as well. Okay. Perfect. Then we will strike that. And graphic shorter. Okay. And Jennifer, I'll make sure if you were muted, did I miss any comments on the first three or was that a thumbs up?
I
you're
gave
not
this
muted.
signal, which I know is not universal, but maybe it is. Kill it.
Kill it. Gotcha. Okay. Good, good, good. All right. Economic development, the meaty one. Come on. There we go. All right. Let folks stare at that and I'll check my notes to see. I think this all pretty much stayed as was. Yes, I'm checking the original wording, although we should make it whatever's correct. Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
It's Charleston.
Charleston, yeah, the wording from last year's golden agenda was, or golden priorities was Callow. I'm happy to
Could be.
update it to Charleston, but I can make a note
It's
to,
a cultural thing, I'm
yeah.
sure.
I can make a note to consult with Michael and see, what he,
I'd like to just combine the first two to say to continue to support Western Washington Small Business Development Center and the BEST program.
that's a good suggestion. Yes, let me go back, sorry. Just wanted to write that down.
Just continue to support both of them instead of.
Gotcha, so combining these first two into one bullet point.
Mhm.
See that on my. But do you want to say, and if sure the program's funded or just say
No,
support?
just
Okay.
Continue to support.
I think the
and
discussion was
that's
making sure they had funding
how
either
we
by a
support.
CDBG or if not CDBG, then general funder. Yeah. Just to throw it out.
Oh,
Mayor, yeah.
is that what you're, to ensure best program is funded? Are you suggesting that the CDBG committee, for whatever reason, doesn't appropriate funds that you would find the money to do it?
Yeah, I believe that was the discussion of,
Okay.
yeah, if they didn't get their CDBG dollars, then the council would be supportive of general fund.
And the apply for Arts Washington Creative Arts District, that is already underway, but that's a Greater Kitsap, and some different entities, our own arts commission, so
It
that's
doesn't come out of the city.
So the city goal, we could change that to encourage support application. But what if I said,
How about again, support Arts Washington Creative Arts District certification.
yeah, so I think just, should be updated up there, certification staff application. Yeah, Jennifer.
I think you could just say support Creative Arts District. I guess if it's not a district yet, but I mean, there's not a lot to be done. I have another work through that, but then I have another question after you figure out that one.
Okay. I'm leaning towards personally putting some word there for certification application. I'm good with certification. Yeah. Okay. And then sorry, back to Denise's and then go ahead, Jennifer, on the combining these two. The Denise with that specific clarification that the previous discussion was to just make sure BEST was funded.
Well, isn't
Do you
that
wanna-
what we do with the Western Washington Small Business Development Center? Is fund them? So why is it different?
That's a good question. I was thinking it'd be coming out of the general fund, or, we'd find a funding source as a city to fund the best program if they didn't get CDBG dollars.
No, I think you can keep that as is, and that's the council direction towards the CDBG committee. Look, by the way, you're factoring all this, but we're the ones that ratify it in the end. And they need to know that the council strongly supports the best program. So that's, you just leave it the way it is.
I gotcha. That makes sense.
Okay.
I like leaving it the way it is.
Excellent. Sweet. And then Jennifer,
Yeah, I was just gonna check in with your algorithm here. I mean, I kind of see why you did it, but you have a negative value on the bottom item. You know you do. It ranked high with us and high with difficulty. So can you? So do you want to?
Yeah, it was a minus 0.02. So the council came out at 8.8 on priority, and the number I wrote down from admin was 9. I think on that one, it was also taking into consideration that understandably, the city having to do a survey and process the data was going to be a lot of work. If, for example, I talked to Joe Morris from Kita the other day and seemed supportive of the idea of that they could take it on. So if one of these other organizations did the heavy lift and the city didn't have to do the work, then it's a high council priority, but not as difficult.
Okay, I have more questions about it that maybe we can discuss at a future date. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's a high priority for us and a good practice
But
on council at least.
I thought before we went too further, there's 3 items I wanted to highlight about wording. And so under transportation, complete a sidewalk plan. I mean, I'm fine with the language if you want to put it that way, but it looks like an administrative
Yeah.
section.
Oh, sorry.
And I think if you get called on that, you'll just be deferring them to myself, administration, where we are in the development of it. So the top 2, I think wordsmithing them in a way where it, it doesn't put you right in the middle of where we are day to day. I mean, as far as getting it done. And then the hiring a consultant might lead people to believe you, the city council, will hire a consultant to advise you on how to, on the roles of the new DEI position. And so, I just want you to, I'm just kind of just putting it out there that there may be, some folks might interpret that differently.
I think of that one, it was when we wordsmithed it, since that was the language we kind of wordsmithed at the retreat. Since it was council really has to approve the essentially roles and responsibilities of the position, it wanted to be made clear that it was obviously could advise both parts of the city. Otherwise, yeah, sorry, Jennifer.
I feel like I understand what the mayor is saying with a lot of the language too that we have here. We aren't developing a sidewalk plan. We're reviewing, supporting, but we don't complete the sidewalk plan. We're not going to actually hire the consultant.
Our priority as a council is that gets completed. Sorry, Eric.
So
Okay.
this is, okay, so I've been through this a lot of times. So this is fine the way you have it written. We work together hand in hand with administration. We're letting the administration know that these are top priorities. Go ahead and do them, please. And so they're perfectly fine the way they are. I've never seen the public comment, oh, well, the council, you're not supposed to, the administration's, that doesn't happen. We work
Okay.
with administration. I think we can move on through, continue with economic development.
Okay.
Sorry, Jennifer, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I know I did. Apologies. And then Anna.
This is tangential, and it's only because I'm like a pretty widely published writer. I would really like to declare a moratorium, at least in this council, for the use of the word wordsmith or wordsmithing or wordsmithed. And I am perfectly willing to offer you almost anything. I will make cookies.
Word forge. All right. Anything else in economic development?
I'm breaking out your thesaurus right now.
Yes, Anna, can you wordsmith something for me for a different word to use besides wordsmith? I think Ned wants to muddy the
I didn't
waters
really-
on
yeah.
something, even though
Nope,
we
sorry,
moved
please.
forward. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Please jump in. I'm gonna guess you, want to talk about transportation and not advanced equity.
I've just got a lead balloon. We're not gonna
Mhm.
complete a sidewalk plan this year. We're gonna work on it and it will be completed as part of the comp plan process. So it'll be a 2024 final product as part of the comp plan and the non-motorized plan. But we are actively working on it and it's gonna be something that we're focused on through the year. But it's not gonna be like a separate plan that is adopted outside of the comp plan process. We want all of those projects to be approved by the public process, which is the comp plan approval process. So
So my understanding is this is referring specifically to the 5-year sidewalk plan.
the
which was-
sidewalk plan,
The
yep.
aim was
that's
to
it.
get it done last year, but then it was looking like this year was the year, last I heard.
And if we do a plan now, we're working with the projects that were approved by the
Mhm.
last public process, which was the last comp plan process. And if we want a robust plan that covers the new projects that we're gonna come up with, it really needs to be adopted once with the comp plan. And so that's our current approach.
This is something, well, going into the weeds, but something that can be updated, yeah.
How about prioritize a sidewalk plan and non-motorized transportation plan as part of the 2024 comprehensive plan?
That's great for me, but I just want to be clear, we're not going to complete it this year. So
Yeah.
you'll set that goal.
Okay.
And
I-
then we'll
Yeah,
fail.
it keeps it on the radar.
I think that's a new update that at least I hadn't. heard.
Yeah, it is.
And
It
Donna,
is.
is that, yeah. anything you-
It is.
Okay. Do worry though, going back to like an old council priority was just prioritize sidewalks and how do we, again, SMART goals, how do we know whether that was
Because
done or
we will,
not? Yeah.
we'll see a sidewalk plan and the non-motorized transportation plan within the comprehensive plan.
But this year, in the next, say, 12
That's
months?
not gonna be until.
We'll be
We'll be
updating
working
council at Public Works Committee on it as we
Okay.
go also. And we're actively working on it. But if we want to bring in all the new projects that really are needing to come in, and that's part of a robust plan, we would be adopting a plan on the old projects and then coming in like months or less than a year later with a whole new update to that plan, which I think is a waste of everybody's time. So you'll be aware of what we're doing. We're actively working on it. We've already brought it to Complete Streets Committee. We have a plan on how to approach it. It's going to be phase 1, work with what we have, and then pull in everything with the comp plan process to make it as robust as possible with the comp plan and then adopt it by council. That's the plan.
Okay. Eric, thoughts?
You can leave it as is, not all goals get done in 1 year. Just leave it as is. It's a priority. The council will continually check with the various departments, how we doing on this? And we'll just move it forward for the following year for completion. It's
Fair enough.
okay.
That's-
It's okay.
That's where I'm leaning as well. Though. Yeah, we're not going to check off every single one of these boxes. So if that's the case, but I think that does represent our consensus that we would like that done because we'd like to be able to tell constituents, here's the plans for sidewalks. Yeah.
I do just want to say that I want to respect a balance between wordsmithing and doing it the way we've always done it. I don't like having documents that we've all worked on, where there are a lot of people saying things like, well, the council doesn't do this, the staff does this. So we spend 20 minutes talking about it, how that could be corrected in the language. And then, let's just go back to what it was. And I look at the way I understand now, I guess. Will I understand in 3 months? I don't know. It's not written the way it's supposed to be done. So we
Yeah,
could
so
just adopt this whole thing right now because it really conveys the heart and spirit of what we've been doing. So just that
specific
caution.
language, yeah.
I don't want
Sorry,
to
yeah.
invest 20 minutes in talking about something and then decide not to do anything about it so that we can talk about it 20 minutes next time and again, not do anything about it. So
that's
just
good.
want to be on the record with that,
Sounds good.
especially at 7:30
Yeah,
at night.
This absolutely
8:15.
won't be perfect, so. Let me ask if folks can live with this language or if there's a specific suggestion to change it. I think I heard the combine them, yeah.
Council President, I'll say this and I'll probably be done after that, but my silence doesn't signal consent. So just so you know, and I don't want to hold you up and keep you here and, so I'll, figured I'd be on record.
Nope, it's
Will
fine.
we all remember this in 4 months? No.
I'm good. And it is the council's golden
Just so for the
priorities,
record,
yeah.
we don't need the mayor's consent. We don't go over the mayor's goals and give him consent on ours. That's kind of I'll let it at that. Let's just stop it right there.
I'm
Yeah,
in
but I was
agreement,
gonna
so.
say, you actually put my name on your council, joint council and mayor and administration retreat. And so I don't put your name on my mayor's goals. So when you put my name on there, if it's just yours, then I'm fine. You can have at it. You can put all kinds of stuff in here. But putting my name on the retreat actually signifies my consent and involvement.
If I look back at all the old planning documents and goals and priorities, I think this has been boilerplate language for years. I don't know if you. But
Something
this
that we,
isn't, yeah, I'll go back and look at all the old ones and see, but if this is tradition and there's never been
right.
yeah, if you haven't
can't- we
raised
can't
red flag
pick and
before,
choose
you're
what-
raising it now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's something that I've been meaning to bring up, but now that we're here and we're talking about it, it was something I was intending to bring up.
I'm not
Well,
really understanding. what's
I'm
being
not
brought
sure.
up.
I'm gonna table that one. Let me get through the rest of council discussion on looking for word language and let's gonna move forward. 'Cause that's kind of a new thing. All right, so we'll leave transportation. Seems like folks are okay with that. We're talking about economic development, anything.
Looks good.
We did that. Okay. My battery's currently running low. Again, my end of that charger.
Just doing a mic check.
I'm scrambling under the desk, Jennifer, to get plugged in.
Oh,
honest.
okay.
Pop
I
something
can't.
I know. There we go. Okay. All right, we had public safety and support. Any comments on any of these?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I think we should. I personally think we should eliminate 1 and 4. We could reword 4. Continues to support additional emergency services FTEs. We could reword that. Since we're still in consideration of it, up to y'all. And get rid of I say get rid of number 1, y'all know where I'm at, but at the very least, take out draft. And
It's done that though. We've drafted and considered it. So I mean, I can remove.
so we
it.
actually we already have met that goal. Check.
We've already met it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
So we
see.
drafted and
Okay.
considered it. We're gonna reconsider. it.
Okay, I see where you're going with that.
Wait, are you saying we take this off? Because what I'm understanding is that we are going to consider it once the state makes a decision.
Yeah, I'd say we've
Yeah.
actually already met this goal already.
Well, we've considered it once, but we also said that we were going to.
And yes, well, it is, yep, there was
So-
consensus.
So you're saying to leave it on because it's already a checkbox, it's actually been met. So, okay.
Hmm.
And then what do y'all think about wording for number 4? I think we all agree we want to support additional emergency services FTEs.
Consider.
Consider's fine. All right.
Okay. Oh.
All gone. I could leave draft, keep, just say consider.
I mean, you already did draft it,
We
so.
did draft, so. Yeah, Kylie did, yeah. Kylie did all the work. There we go. All right, so I think leave it there. Affordable housing. No, I think sorry, I was hearing draft stay. Since we did draft. It was a. Yeah. Or it was drafted. The city drafted. Don't think I changed anything in here. I definitely word forged the incentives here. Yeah.
For the record, I like word forged. I think we should put that in our constitution procedure. Word forged.
Was that word forged or word foraged, like a mushroom?
Christine, I can tell you are laughing there. I can tell.
Are we making steel or are we making mushroom soup? That's what I want to know.
Mhm.
Looks good.
Perfect. Yes, everything else is good there. Okay. And then communications, I think is straightforward from what we had written. I don't think I changed anything there. Yeah, no, go for it. Okay. Although probably for everyone watching, yeah. microphone, so.
One thing in communication, I like all of this. I think we should go beyond crafting a proposal and like write a job description for a city, whatever, a communications or public information officer. But one thing I really liked in the water department report yesterday was that they are getting responses from people who live in Bremerton because they are sending out inserts in the water bill. The comprehensive plan, it has having more hearings than you can shake a stick at, but but there's no way to tell if those comments are from Bremerton. And the comments on the 2044.com are, correct me if I'm wrong at any point, please, Mr. Jackson, are anonymous and therefore could come from anywhere. So I think some kind of writing that that emphasized using that technique, especially since at great cost and of time and energy, the water department is now sending out bills monthly, of using that as a way to communicate with the people of Bremerton, in addition to the mandated public hearings and so forth.
Sounds good. All right, so whole district meetings on comprehensive plan. It's up there. Any other suggested changes? Seeing none. They're literally in my hands to then give a thumbs up to Kylie. It's been on the back burner. It's been crazy, so I apologize. No, I was gonna take a look just as I think the most avid social media user currently with, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It would be an OPMA violation to just send it out and get your comments.
So, but then it would, of course, come to council for, yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, is perfect. About, and as established based on input at the joint planning session. Gotta change it to that. Okay. Any other last comments, Eric?
I suggest you can go ahead and take draft off the top and these are it. So it's January or February, whatever. This doesn't go to our formal vote, so.
It did last year, and so I assume that was the procedure.
We vote on
Put a
it?
gender bill and usually consent. We did last year.
Really?
Because I remember, Quinn did request it went to general business because he had a suggested wording change on the React language.
We didn't do
Um,
that in years past. That's fine. I was just curious, because I don't remember voting on this every year. We just kind of had a head nod. These are passed on. Christine, am I crazy? Well, that's probably a separate issue.
I think we need to table that one.
I'm fine. I think it didn't hurt to pass
It's-
it and
no,
say,
it's
yeah,
all
we did,
good.
yeah,
I
no,
was
good,
just
but it's
curious.
funny, yeah. Okay, then I think the only to do is to ask if you guys are good with Michael's preference for Charleston versus Callow. And then whatever he says, well, that'll stay in, yeah.
I just want to ask, Mayor, is that what we're using now when we're talking about the redevelopment along Callow? It's the Charleston business. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll update that to Charles. Okay, it's not, thank you. Good. All right, so we'll do that to Charleston, so when Michael have no objection. And, Mayor, are you okay with established based on input of the joint planning session? I just updated on that's on the screen. Okay. All right, this will go on. Is consent okay?
Yes. Please.
All right, last item I had was the St. Patrick's Day Parade is on March 11th. I think you saw the, if anyone want to participate from council, sounds like we got a couple people. Only decision is whether to register. I think it's $20 for a walking group or there's a $150 sponsor level for recognition. So
How do we get back in the bucket?
no, I don't think no fire bucket at the St. Patrick's.
No,
Parade.
but it's
Gotta
just
wait.
as fun. We get to
Yeah.
dress up and walk the parade and it's really fun. I mean, I guess I'm a parade goer. But it's a nice way to show community support and meet a lot of folks. It's a really popular parade.
That'll be good. So the deadline is coming out. It's before next study session. So
I may have already paid for a banner.
the decision is $20 from council for walking group or $150 for basically a supporter level. Folks have any strong opinions? I mean, we got the budget either way.
That money, I think, what goes to DBA?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an organization we
Agrees.
already support, but do we need to be, I don't know. We don't usually do sponsorships like this. I just want to be in the parade and I can be in the parade with or without council, of course, but
So
I'd rather.
that's in the preview of the council president's budget. It's at his discretion whether to spend that kind of money.
All right, I'll take a look and folks have no strong objections. Perfect. All right, any other, Honor?
Quick things, for good of the order. I'm tired of wrestling with the packet and trying to like make notes on it. I would like us to own Adobe Plus, which has editing capabilities, would enable us to bookmark stuff, so that we, instead of going, hold on, I'm looking for it. It would be a much more seamless thing. I think we do business more efficiently. I got one.
Can you work with, so sorry, you want a license for it to have on your city laptop
Well,
or?
for all of us. Yeah,
What
I
do we
mean, we
use it?
have Adobe Reader.
Okay,
I'd like us to upgrade to Adobe Plus. Just so that we can, do better.
cool. Tell you what, I'll talk with IT on the options there, if that's a possibility. I promise I'll write that down and talk with them.
Okay.
Okay.
Second and last, I was just thinking it would be really helpful for council to have somebody who worked in social media. Obviously in a dreamy world, we'd have a full-time social media director. But I thought that perhaps we could start with an intern from an underserved community who would serve a 3 to 6 month internship. Because these are people who grew up in social media. So it's just something for us to consider and then reconsider in another couple of weeks or so.
Sure. maybe if we establish that contact with the Youth Advisory Council, we can, not that only the youth use social media, but maybe we can, get in contact with them on any feedback.
High school kids?
So they're gonna tell you that Facebook is
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
something they use, so
Yes.
you're not gonna get, well, never
Yeah.
mind, but
OC,
It's true.
that's my understanding.
yeah,
Yeah.
OC, I
Suggestion
was
well
thinking
heard.
more, because they have to communicate with professors.
We get on. Okay. Well, thank you. All right. Seeing no other.
Real
Oh,
quick,
Yeah, Jennifer, sorry, your hand is up. Yep.
that's okay. I sent a link to a project I learned about at AWC when I was in a homelessness advocate or ending homelessness breakout session. The mayor of Burlington wanted to brag on a project that was a partnership project with a managing organization called Friendship House, and there was private funding, public funding, city capital funding, about $1 million project. 24/7 low barrier emergency shelter. The mayor found city-owned property. And they repurposed that city-owned property. There was a building that they kind of tore down, or not tore down, but they outfitted to be a resource center. And there's 45 beds, and people can stay. I believe it's a limited 90-day stay, but they even have and it was in an industrial area, but they even have certain shelter spaces that are reserved for law enforcement drop-offs. So law enforcement can drop off at different times of the night. There's not a time limit for those particular drop-offs. And I just sent you all a link to it. Thanks. The end.
Thank you. Appreciate the info. All right, any other good of the order? Going once, going twice. Perfect. Reminder that the city council meeting will be held on Wednesday, March 1st, 2023 at 5:30 PM in the first floor chambers, with as always now a remote option. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Adjourned. Good night, everybody.